Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm sorry that I look like such a savage this morning, but I did need to, I did wake up a little bit later today. Not just that, I did debate last night, so I guess in my defense, I was up a little bit later. Effectively, I had a schizophrenic 19-year-old Irish kid tell me his wildest conspiracy theories about the world, and it was kind of insane. And normally I could have like spurred out and yelled at him and all that kind of stuff. Conservative liberalism, it was basically like talking to, he was very nice. Teriak was very nice. I actually really enjoyed the conversation. So any criticism I have of him, I want to amend with the fact that despite being probably certifiably insane, he was actually very polite while being certifiably insane. But it was basically like talking to a autistic, schizophrenic conspiracy theorist. And one of the comments that I got, not that it's a particularly like popular episode or whatever, but one of the comments I got was like, this guy seemed more credible than he was because Connor only addressed 5% of the schizopolitical theories or schizophrenic theories that this guy forwarded. And it's like, yeah, like I didn't have unlimited time to debunk every single thing the guy said. It was kind of wild. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was just kind of a wild conversation with a 19-year-old autistic schizophrenic. It was kind of interesting. I mean, it was fun. It was just, weird. TikTok never Trump guy. All right, I need to pull up the anthem because, of course, the dogs did not do what they were supposed to do this morning, and they're just doing it now. They just went for a poop. Now they're trying to come back in. So I'll be right back in a second. Enjoy the anthem.
So this is really who Donald Trump chose as his running mate?
I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him. I never liked him. I never liked racism. I'm a never Trump guy. Xenophobia. I'm a never Trump guy. Racism. I'm a never Trump guy. Xenophobia. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I never. 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 I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
Yeah, it was a super wild conversation. So let me try to summarize it for you real quick, just in case you are interested in it. And I do want help with content because I'll tell you right now, I really want to watch Wick TV, Wick out on Doobie, and Mix Vivian Wolf. Apparently Wick wicked out super hard on Doobie and Mix Vivian Wolf yesterday. Day before, I don't know, but somebody was watching it yesterday and it was funny as fuck. Let's talk about that combo from last night real quick. Yeah, so effectively his conspiracy theory, and it was an all-reaching conspiracy theory, is that the fascists from Germany and Italy, after Germany and Italy were conquered in World War II, they all went overseas to America, South America, and the Middle East and North Africa. But when they went there, they co-opted and corrupted all those states into fascist regimes. So all of those states that they went to, including the United States, became fascist. And so for the past 80 years, by controlling the CIA and by controlling these other states, basically these fascist regimes have been oppressing their people and not executing the true will of these people. And it's actually Donald Trump who is going to save us from the fascists of the deep state by... I hate you, Beef Supreme, with every fiber of my fucking being right now. Donald Trump is going to save us from the fascists I can't even believe you said that. That's not a conspiracy. It kind of yeah, no shit. The fascists fucking ran away. You think they took over every single country they're a part of? Fuck is wrong with you? Do you think that's how that worked? Do you think 12 people show up in a country of 100 fucking million and everybody in the country goes, Heil Hitler? Like what the fuck do you think is happening? That's the dumbest. All the energy that I held back because Teriak seemed like a nice kid last night, I'm not going to hold back on you, just straight up. You think fucking 12 Germans show up in your country and then everybody is like, oh shit, turns out Giovanni Gentile is based. Let's start doing Roman salutes and goose stepping. Let's start killing minorities. What the fuck? What the fuck are we talking about? I'm gonna kill myself. That Beef Supreme, you agreeing with Teriak and being like, oh yeah, that actually that it is too early. It is too, I have had not enough caffeine. We took in more than 12. I'm saying they did, in fact, come here under the protection of the U.S. Is that the same? Is that the same as them taking... It has... Okay, riddle me this. Riddle me this, okay? Did the United States become fascist because we took in 1,000 fucking Nazi scientists? Okay. 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 It's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought I thought fucking Beef Supreme was channeling the soul of fucking Teriak. Fuck you, Beef Supreme. Fuck you. Kind of, yes. Eat a dick. You think that the United... Oh my God. I can't do it. 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 This is just like Hunter Biden. This is just like Joe Biden being perfectly cogent and coherent. I can't engage with it. I can't engage with it. I will actually fucking die. I will die. I can't do it. All right, Beef Supreme, I'm gonna pretend that we're best friends and you never said that and everything's cool. Everything's great. We're just waking up slow together. We're caffeinating. We're gonna go check out some funny content. Everything's fine. You know? That is too much too soon. If you hit me with that at like 11 a.m., I would have been like, okay. If you hit me with that at fucking 9:40, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. Anonymous Chatter says, bro, President 2-week bone spurs pulled us back from the brink of war for guess how long. You'll never guess how long. Praise be to dear leader. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. How's the psychic damage recovery? Apparently, we're not going to have an opportunity to recover. We're just going to fucking go screaming into the next fucking drama. Like a fucking hypersonic rocket. We're just going to fucking take off, smash into the next fucking wall of psychic damage. Real serious with the Argentinian peso says, I will say, though, I do feel kind of vindicated by that guy as an Argentinian because you guys arguably took in the most important Nazis. We got stuck with the retards. In that sense, he was correct. That's funny. That is funny. All right, I can't do it. I can't do it. Officer Nasty says Connor looks 10 years younger without the beard. So what? I look 40 instead of 50? Okay. 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 A fortnight. Yeah. we got a fortnight ceasefire, which we're probably already violating, let's be real. Okay. So let's can we wick out? Can we wick? Because honestly, that sounds funny to me. I want to read. Apparently, there was like a really, really, really aggressive, self-deprecating, borderline culturally suicidal article written by a schizophrenic Jewish lady who got it published, saying that in order for Jews to not be attacked worldwide, they need to become actively anti-Zionist. And then Wick was saying like, hey, this fucking article is pretty anti-Semitic. And then Doobie was like, no, it's not anti-Semitic. Let me steel man this schizophrenic lady's arguments. And then he does kind of partially steel man the lady's arguments, but then fucking 20 minutes into it, fucking Wick just like wicks the fuck out and bans Doobie. And then Mix Vivian Wolf, a really classic character. What's so funny about Mix Vivian Wolf, they're a non-binary, female-coded trans person from the UK. They're a member of Antifa. They've, like, doxed people. They've done all this kind of crazy shit online. And they fucking, Mix Vivian Wolf, excuse me, Mix Vivian Wolf also jumped on and wicked the fuck out on them as well, which I think is funny. It wasn't borderline? What wasn't borderline? Jeb Kush for the 2 says Renly Baratheon be like, Fortnite dies gay. Alright. It looks like enough people know. Yeah, real serious. Wick had the strength to do what you could not, nor the strength that I will continue to not have. You give me thousands of dollars over the course of months. You can say whatever fucking shit you want. You can say whatever wild shit. You want to fucking say that a article saying that Judaism needs to die is not anti-Semitic? Go off, King. You want to say the Red Sea crisis is just because Israel and America are genocidal international forces? You go off. You want to say Hassan Piker isn't that bad and I'm exaggerating how big of a piece of shit he is? Yes, sir. Do it via $10 super chat dozens of times per stream and I'll indulge your argumentation. Fashion 40, I think it's Fashion 40, says, chipping before I got a deep dive into work. Well, thank you, Fashion. I appreciate you. Oh, my God. I missed a bloody argument. Damn. Well, last night was wild. We're going to watch the Wick TV thing in a second. I don't think that Judaism should die. Pretty sure they just took issue with the blood and soil component of it. We'll read the article first. Connor, I commented on the speakeasy debate you had with Terry Yak that whatever nut job was on your VOD on it. Oh, okay. Maybe it was yours that was like, he fucking smashed you with like 10,000 different conspiracy theories. Because he did. And that's the problem. He didn't understand this, but I said it and I think it's true. That guy he had way too much information and nowhere near enough. And then he could not understand how those statements made sense. So way too much information. What I mean by that is that he had like all these factoids across a century and a half through which he was drawing a narrative. And that information from that regard, he had way too many facts that were kind of connected, but not fully connected. And then where he didn't have enough information is the actual series of events that connected all of those facts. If he had those, he wouldn't be as schizophrenic as he was. But he really could not, he couldn't put that together. So, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. You know what? He was nice, he was funny, he was weird. So he gets not a full pass, but he gets a partial pass. Numanax for 10 says same as 40 chip for you. Thank you, Numanax. I appreciate you, King. I appreciate you. You guys were so fucking generous yesterday that I can't complain for the rest of the week. I could literally not make any money for the next like 2 days, and I would be like, it's fine. Larry Hutchinson says, what's your opinion on the 10-point plan in detail, please? Oh, you want... Half of it is our non-starters. That's my first thing. So you want me to Google the Iranian 10-point plan real quick? So Iran 10-point proposal. So let's Google the word 10. What are the terms of the ceasefire? While in the U.S., a breakdown of the 10 points. So, Iran's 10-point conditions that the U.S. has accepted as workable. The U.S. is fundamentally committed to non-aggression. Bullshit. If they start making fucking nukes again, we'll aggress the fuck out of their position. Continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's okay. You can have control over the northern half of the Strait of Hormuz. The acceptance of enrichment. That's not going to happen. We'll allow you to enrich a civilian nuclear program at 1 to 5%, but we're not accepting a 60%. Lifting of all primary sanctions, that's probably not happening. Lifting of all secondary sanctions, that's probably not happening. Termination of all UN Security Council resolutions, that's probably not happening. Termination of all IAEA Board of Governors resolutions, that's probably not happening. Payment of compensation to Iran, that could be happening in frozen assets being unfrozen in order to compensate them for, quote unquote, for all the damage that we did. Withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, that's never going to happen. Cessation of the war on all fronts, including against the heroic Islamic resistance of Lebanon, that's not going to fucking happen. There's no way that Israel would effectively, I forget what the river's called. Somebody could post the river in chat, and I would be like, yes, that's the river. You could also post the wrong name of the river, and I would probably still agree to it. But Israel is actively annexing and ethno-religiously cleansing a not particularly populated, but still substantially populated enough that it's still fucked up, region of southern Lebanon that leads up to a river. And so effectively, I think what they're, the Danube, the Rubicon, the Bosphorus, the Euphrates, the Nile, you guys are just like listing up the Tiber. Yeah, you guys just keep listing like fucking historical rivers. I think Gilgamechosaur is correct. I think it's the Litani, the Shakim, the Styx. Yeah. Yeah, but there's no way. There's no way Israel stops annexing that territory just because we say, oh yeah, you know, we'll stop. Like, yeah, it's the Litani. I'm the Mississippi. Yeah. Yeah. So Larry Hutchinson, my analysis of the 10-point plan is that 2 of them are acceptable. 1 of them is half acceptable. And then the other 7.5 will flat out be rejected. So that's like, Trump just wanted to say yes. That way we could, like, you know, kind of get a 2-week ceasefire, and he could say, "Oh, we won. We won. We did it, guys. We saved the city." You know, meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz is on fire in the background. That's what he wanted. And he got that, but the only person that's going to work on are fucking idiots. Like, there was this idiot in chat who was a Teriak fan who was like, oh, Connor agreed that if Donald Trump won the war, then, you know, like, he would pay Teriak $20 by May 1st. Well, guess what? The news already came in. We won the war. Iran has agreed to a ceasefire. And it's like, you fucking, like, I don't even know what to do with you. You're like a different species. Whoever that guy is, and whatever species of human Admiral Gibbs is, number one, I'm not sure that my genetics and Admiral Gibbs' genetics, I know he's a guy, so this is partially a gay joke. But I truly do not know if our genetics would produce offspring, because he seems so far removed from the rest of the human species. This guy is probably of the same ilk as Admiral Gibbs. And I almost feel like we should treat them as chimpanzees, right? We should treat them like, okay, you are sentient creatures capable of moral thought and therefore deserving of moral consideration, but we're not going to give you the right to vote. You know what I'm saying? Like, I borderline think that we should segregate those people out of voting, because it's fucking crazy that we let them feed themselves. You know, it's crazy that we let them work without like a caretaker. Auschness with $5. Thank you. Why the fudge do Speakeasies panels always look like the cast of Drunk Tank on a Saturday night in the South? I swear 2/3 of them have some kind of record. I don't know, man. It's tough out there. It's tough out there for the panel bros. Fire Rat for 5 says, Connor, next stream item purchase has to be a green screen so you can have cool backgrounds for your speeches. Also, the Rhino speech, look into the camera. Yeah, I need to, my next purchase needs to be a USB-C to USB-A cable. That way I can plug in my teleprompter. So if I'm looking right here, like looking right at you right now, this is where the teleprompter is. It is set up so I could read it. So I could redo the Rhino speech with that. And to be honest, I'm probably going to let the Rhino content flow this week, but I think we're going back to Counterpoint's Politics is going to be highly edited React Andy segments. I'm going to start up the Rhino channel and post the Rhino 10-minute segments to the Rhino channel, and I'll try to have like 5 a week or so. And then if it takes off, it takes off. If it doesn't take off, then, you know, whatever. Can he return frozen assets after the Obama critique? Yeah, probably. Well, dude, you're saying, Larry Hutchinson, you're saying that like hypocrisy is something that the MAGA gives a shit about. You know, they don't. The Euphrates, the Phillips, the Big Gay River, the Red Sea, the Red Fork. Yeah, Trump won the war. 2 hours into the conflict, he and his cabinet agreed. Correct. Yeah, Dank Brandon says, last night turned out to be Taco Tuesday for the whole world, Connor. Yeah, I know. It was brutal. Gibbs is proof of Neanderthal genetics surviving into the modern day. Dude, apparently I have disproportionately high Neanderthal genetics. I have like, you know, like the average is like 0.5%, and I have like 2 or like 3. Like, I have disproportionate Neanderthal genetics. That's not even an excuse. It's not even a good excuse. I got fucking R-slur Neanderthal fucking DNA clanking around in my genetic code, and I'm not that dumb. Short says, Valor Media Network, I want to buy a 3D printer, Bamboo P2S, good to go. Yes, I got a Bamboo A1. So a Bamboo A1 is $400. So if you're buying like $1,000 or a $2,000 Bamboo, I'm telling you, the A1 will do 90% of what you want to do. And it's cheap, man. $400 is not bad. If you go buy another super cheap 3D printer, you're at minimum spending $200 to $300. Spending an extra $100 and then getting a Bamboo A1 is the shit. Now, if you want to do like the fancy thing, you want to do the laser engraving, you want to do the multicolor prints, you want to do all that kind of shit, then get the higher level Bamboo. But I'm a huge fan of the A1. I was working with a refurb Viper. I was working with a refurb Anycubic Viper, and it was good for, I don't know. It was good for about a year, and that started fucking up really bad, and apparently it was assembled improperly. But even after the 3D print repair shop tried to repair it, it was still fucking up. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't have the money, but I need to spend the money anyways. I got the Bamboo A1 for like $400, and it's been beautiful. It literally, it does the job well almost every single time. So, yeah. You guys want to wick out? We can wick out. Death Lily says, just post Rhino to Counterpoint's Politics and put it in a playlist. It's already pretty hard to find your channel naturally. Okay. How do you look so young and handsome? I chopped off 80% of my beard. So I do think I look comparatively youthful compared to how I normally look. Yeah. So I think the beard does add 5 or 10 years of age. But I feel like it's a very distinguished like I feel like I rock the beard pretty fucking well. So I'm gonna grow the beard out again. But the Wick panel made Destiny rage quit. I mean, that would, if I read that article, we need to find that article too. So Justin Garcia says, good morning to you. If you buy a Bamboo printer, only print from the USB or LAN. Bamboo has software that shows you 3D prints back to China. All right. I mean, what are the Chinese going to do? They're going to print out a bolter? That would be good. If Chinese citizens were printing out fucking bolters and then attacking government forces with fucking 12-gauge semi-automatic explosive bullets, that would be fucking sick. Why don't I want the Chinese to have a bolter? So, yeah. Fast and Bulbous says Connor looks like a president on day one. I feel like a president on day fucking 180. Horse God says, if Nazis didn't secretly take over America, then explain Stephen Miller. Checkmate. I think it needs to be brought up that fucking Stephen Miller is a Jew. Crusader Danny says, I just sent the article to you on Discord. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, Crusader Danny. I'm sorry for yelling at you the other day. I'm sorry I'm so grumpy. I'm sorry I'm so grumpy. All right, let me find the Wick segment. I wanna find Wicking out. Oh my God. Here it is. It's popping. It's popping so hard right now. 1,500 views in 16 hours. It's not the you know, I'm sure Wix had other shit that's algorithmically done well. So I don't want to say like, oh, this is the biggest thing Wix ever done. But I Googled Wick TV and it was the top search result. The top search result was fucking Wick versus Doobie on whatever the fuck this is. So I'm going to go straight to when I see Doobie on screen. That's going to be funny. This is going to be great. All right, let's read this article. It's going to be wild. Larry Hutchinson with the 2 says, trying to set up the easy spazzing MAGA content. Yeah. 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 Sorry if I'm not, like, jumping into it both feet first, Larry Hutchinson. Today I want to wick out. Oh, yeah. It's fine. I need to be yelled at sometimes. Okay. All right, let's do a little intro and then let's get cracking. Quick shill, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. You guys were so nice yesterday. You could literally not donate to me for a few days if you want. Money's always appreciated though. Obviously, not only do I want to pay my bills, I want to, I don't know, eventually get out of debt and buy firearms and rescue dogs. So those are the hobbies that I will be doing with extraneous cash. So if you're into me surviving as a human being with my children fed and clothed, if you're into rescuing dogs, or if you're into firearms, then please feel free to donate. Also, I'll share this with you. I'm taking Ruth, R-E-U-T-H. You might see him in chat sometimes. He's a local to me. And we're going to go out and we're going to do the liberal gun content this weekend. I have a old sheriff's office friend. Back when I went through the academy, a lot of my academy friends went on to become Orange County Sheriff's Office. I have a sheriff friend who is still working the job. So we're going to his, not semi-rural property, and we're going to walk Ruth through all the basics of firearms. So we're going to do, you know, safety rules, weapons handling, loading and unloading, different mechanics of firearms, you know, sight alignment, sight picture, all that kind of stuff. It's basically going to be, I'm actually just going to yap about firearms until I truly cannot think of anything else to teach Ruth about firearms. And it's going to be liberal firearm content. So, you know, we'll be training the libtard militia. But let me go ahead and thank the people who have donated so far. Larry Hutchinson times 3. Got 3 donations from Larry Hutchinson. Thank you, King. Fire Rat, Alishness, Numinax, Fashion 40, Jeb Kush, and Real Serious. Thank you for your donations already. You guys basically hit a goal already. So I'll reset a goal and we'll do an intro and read this article together. Oh my god. All right. Fell Runner says they barely talk about the article itself. Nah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, liberal gun content. Let's go. Let's go. Dude, there's this. I gotta share this before we start, okay? So I released the new Sisters of Battle cinematic. It came out 2 weeks ago, but I was super busy last week, so I didn't release it last week. And what was I thinking? There's this scene where two orcs are talking about, they were hunting Sisters of Battle, and one of the orcs failed, and the other orc, it almost seems like he's like greeting him and welcoming the other orc back. He ends up killing him because, of course, like orcs do that. But the orc is talking like a toddler, and I almost find it cute. He's like, "Oh, we're going back to the war world. We're going back to the war world. The big boss. The big boss is calling us. Gazgul, the biggest of all the bosses." And I was like, am I supposed to find 1,000-pound green gorilla creature that fucking murders all sapient creatures within its reach? Am I supposed to find this guy cute? Because I weirdly find him cute. And then he murders the other orc. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what am I supposed to... Okay, well, you're saying nice black scent. Fuck that. I'm gonna show you guys it. I'm gonna show it to you guys. I think he's fucking cute. I'm not supposed to find orcs cute. The biggest of all the bosses. Oh, I don't want politics. I want 40K. All right, so indulge my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder for a second. Let me find the scene where the orcs are talking. It's gonna be awkward, just because the like my Chrome buffers super hard, but just deal with it, okay? Just deal with it. We're gonna watch orcs being cute for a second. Completed. That does not mean that it's over.
Didn't think anyone was making it out that rubble. The ship's ready. It's time to leave. They are all leaving. All the boys. The war is calling. He is calling. Gasco, the big boss. Biggest of all the bosses. We're headed to the war world. Back to Armageddon. Not you, though. Boss said you took too long.
Why do I find him cute? He just... Dude. His motion. He's got fucking motion, bro. I don't know what it is. I don't... Yeah. Yeah, he's got swagger. He's farming aura. He's got fucking motion, dude. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know. I think he's fucking cute. So, Connor, some orcs just got it like that. Don't fight it. I won't. I'll just accept it. Your Neanderthal DNA is showing. Maybe that's what it is. My caveman brain is admiring the caveman culture of the orcs. I don't like the voice. I love it. I think it's great. So, somebody said, how old are my kids? I got a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. Libtard is the name of my Antifa chapter. Excellent. Excellent. We're gonna create the Libtard militia. That's gonna be the name. It's gonna be like the Oath Keepers, but it's gonna be dumb as fuck. you know all those like LARPy conservatarians who are like, we're the Oath Keepers. If there was ever a revolutionary war, then we would be the first ones to fight it in order to preserve the Constitution of the United States. And then you're like, what do you think about Donald Trump violating the Constitution? And then they would be like, he never did. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's the Messiah. And it's like, okay, you're fucking useless. And you are not serving the purpose that you claim to have served. You know? So instead of Oath Keepers, we're going to do, we're going to be the R-slur keepers. Yes, correct. We're going to be the libtard keepers. Correct. The libtard militia. It's time for Wick, Jocko Willink versus Doobie, Helen Keller. God, that's mean. You guys are so mean. Vaz Rocco, thank you for the gifted. Thank you for being one of my favorite lurkers. Well, actually, you are my favorite lurker. Larry Hutchinson is not a lurker. Who is it? Exponential Entropy is considered a lurker because he only stops by once a week on Tuesdays to drop $100. So he's also a lurker. But Vaz Rocco, you always gift a membership almost every single day. So seriously, I appreciate you. Yeah. Yeah, the one talking is the smart one. Correct. That was actually the smartest orc that they have. He's a mech boy. He puts together guns and vehicles. He's actually like smart as fuck. So the Oath Keepers, yes, but I want to do the liberal dumbass version of it. Crusader Danny says, when I found out the person who wrote that article is a land back person who is doing this because of imperialism, etc., like, no thank you. Yeah. The Oat Keepers. Dude, I got flashbanged. I'll start the segment, I promise. Brother, pass me the oats. This is what I thought. This is what I thought instantaneously. I am starving, brother. Brother, would you spare me some oats? Like, that's what... This will be our symbol. A pig so fat that it looks like a watermelon with legs. Perfect. Captures my current fitness level perfectly. All right. Let's do it. Oh no, we are going to suffer today, chat. You ready to suffer? I'm ready to suffer. Your greed sickens me. Yes. Okay. Why is it so fat? I have no idea. I think it's like a 19th century, 18th century painting. I have no idea why the pig is so fat. All right. Anyways, let's be good boys and good girls. Let's start the content. So, hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran. I would argue a real Republican, and I have some beautiful psychic damage for you today. I got Wick TV, wicking out on Doobie, a community member. So let me explain. Let me give you some background real quick. There used to be this guy named Dylan Burns. He ran panel shows, and he was very successful doing it. And there were other people who replicated the model of panel shows, and they were moderately successful at doing it. I would include Prime Kai, and I would include Wick in those moderately successful panel hosts. And the way that a panel works is you invite members of the community onto your show in order to debate, and then you profit, obviously, from hosting and moderating the show. Now, the criticism of Wick is that he kind of does this thing where 80% of the time, 90% of the time, he stays out of the fight, but then 10 to 20% of the time, haphazardly, he'll jump in and throw elbows. And it's kind of confusing, but it is what it is, right? I also, part of the reason why I don't moderate panels is because the amount of stupidity that goes off in a panel is so overwhelming that it actually psychically damages me if I have to sit there for 3 hours listening to other people wax philosophical about some of the dumbest shit that I've ever heard in my entire life. So, being a panel host is not for the faint of heart. But what ends up happening is Wick does throw elbows in the Twitch and YouTube political scene. And what he did last night, which was notable and funny, was there was this article that got released that says, yes, all Jews must kill Zionism within Judaism. And we're going to read the article together because it's been accused of being anti-Semitic. And I'm probably going to read maybe the whole thing. I'll try to be as quick as I can. But the point is that a lot of people think that this article is anti-Semitic, although it has not been ratioed. It has 2,500 likes, 750 comments, 965 retweets. It hasn't been ratioed. More people than not like this article. So Doobie came onto the stream ostensibly to argue that the concept forwarded in this article is indeed not anti-Semitic, it's not anti-Jew, and if you steelman the argumentation, it actually makes a lot of sense. And after a few minutes of debating, wicked out, freaked out, yelled at him, kicked him off of the show. And I think Mix Vivian Wolf, another old school YouTube content creator, jumped on and did the same thing. So let's go ahead and check out the article, and we'll take a look at it together. Excuse me. So, yes, all Jews must kill Zionism within Judaism by Amanda Gellender. Okay. I have come to have tremendous disdain for my people, the evil we have wrought, and the demons we have become. Our craven hypocrisy, our Holocaust hand-wringing, our selfish dissociation, our bottomless both-sidesing, our catatonic inaction, our feeble sign-waving, our condescending condemnations, our wallowing victim complex, our self-indulgent betrayals, our brazen self-centeredness, our exploitable careerism, our blood and soil racism, our liberal cowardice, our mountains of empty platitudes amongst mountains of Palestinian corpses that we annihilated in cold blood. Israel, quote unquote, has likely killed hundreds of thousands of people in 2.5 years of non-stop bombardment, executions, and engineered starvation in Gaza. The depths of our sadism seemingly knows no bounds. One of the last times that Judaism's breath and beating heart, that prophet Moses delivered, existed and showed itself, died in Auschwitz, when Jewish Zionists were already busy building what would become the Jewish death colony of Israel. Whether or not an echo of Moses' Judaism can still exist or is recuperable is yet to be determined, but I can confidently state, I don't care. That's not why I'm here. I do not have the willingness or desire to even entertain possibilities of Judaism's continuity until the Zionist entity is ashes and Palestine is free. No anti-Semitism so far. I have come to have this tremendous disdain for my people, the evil we have wrought, and the demons we've become. Are you for real? I mean, this collectively holding it, I don't even want to argue. I want to keep reading. It's a little spicy. I think it's a little spicy. Not only is it spicy, can I point out something that's a little silly? She's like, I don't even know if the Judaism of Moses can be saved. Motherfucker, what did Moses do? But Moses fucking led his people out of Egypt, and Moses himself did not enter the Holy Land. But what did the Israelites do when they got to the Holy Land? They conquered Jericho. They conquered Canaan. They got into fights with the Philistines. How is this any different? What the fuck are we talking about? Crusader Danny says, now instead of Jews, use black people and think the creator of the article is Candace Owens. I know. 10 lines in and I already agree. Jesus Christ. The lefty fucking brain rot is crazy, but that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right, let's keep reading, lest we get distracted by chat. This is not a navel-gazing fight for the soul of Judaism. Palestine is not our Jewish moral reckoning. There isn't a morsel of Jewish morality in sight. Palestine is an anti-colonial and decolonial liberation struggle in which we Jews are the fascistic overlords, the vicious propagandists and the funders, the militarized soldier settlers demolishing and stealing homes, igniting West Bank pogroms, and executing children en masse. Jewish Zionists will say this involves anti-Semitic tropes. We don't care. Your words fall entirely flat as Jews in Israel celebrating Purim by cheering on bombings like the murders of 165 schoolgirls and staff killed by U.S.-Israeli airstrikes on Iran. The truth of Jewish terrorism is already seared into Palestinian land, jaggedly branded and carved into Palestinian skin with swastikas of David. Jews now dwell in and animate the age of totalitarian Judaism. I don't want to hear about anti-Semitism or Jewish victimhood ever again. Yeah. Zionists insist that hating Israel is tantamount to hating Jews, then in the same breath demand that people do not conflate Israel with Jews. When I remark to Jews that we are all responsible for ending Zionism and the ongoing Palestinian genocide, I usually hear hashtag not all Jews, say Zionists not Jews. There are actually more Christian Zionists than Jewish ones. Well, I am speaking to Jews right now, a people who support fascist Zionism in lockstep across every institution in our community. Okay, Officer Nasty, you're too woke for me, but that's always been true. Enough with the incessant deflection of responsibility. Jews consider ourselves a proud collective people, an unbroken lineage from generation to generation, l'dor vador, up until the cracked mirror of modern Judaism reflects back nothing but terrorism, slaughter, blood, sadism, rape, and organ theft. That's interesting. Virtually every Jewish group supports the existence of Israel in some shape or form, and we dare to point the finger at others instead of cleaning up our own filthy house. Organized Jewish formations across our entire community keep the colony humming through diehard and consistent commitment, propaganda, money, and resources, considering strengthening and defending Israel to not only be a mitzvah, but part of their duty towards the Jewish people and an extension of their identity. Mind you, Jewish people are currently operating a string of torture and rape dungeons in Palestine and pummeling Lebanon and Iran with airstrikes. Israeli torturers recently abducted and burned cigarettes into the thighs of a 1-year-old Palestinian child. This is the Jewish state. This is how far gone we are. I will open up these hyperlinks. Zionism is not fringe within Judaism. It is ubiquitous. It is incumbent upon Jewish people of conscience to make the distinction between Zionism and Judaism materially true by destroying Zionism in our own communities, not denying our widespread complicity, and policing others merely observing the fascistic reality of modern Judaism. Damn, is this a doobie alt? At great cost to themselves and their peoples, Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims have stated these truths plainly for generations. Writer Nada Shavadeh vividly describes the reality of Jewish settler colonialism every day. None of what I'm stating is new. It is only rare for a Jew to hear it from a Jew. Jewish people are condescendingly and racistly dismissive of Palestinians as narratives of their own decolonial struggle and insist instead upon perpetual Jewish innocence. As a people, we are woefully out of touch with both humanity and reality. The fact that virtually all Jews and Jewish spaces are Zionist and support the existence of Israel is an indictment of us as a morally bankrupt people. 0 Jews could support Palestine, and it would only further condemn us, certainly not those under the boot of our fascist reign, constantly developing resurgent ways to persist and resist our sadistic butchering. Jewish thoughts and feelings about Palestine do not matter, or rather they should not matter. Jewish feelings are currently given far too much weight as the world grinds to a halt for white Jewish feelings in particular. Jewish university staff and students are currently receiving massive payouts for so-called anti-Semitism claims after the blessed... I'm just going to say it. I think this fucking sentence is fucking anti-Semitic as fuck, but hold on. After the blessed Al-Aqsa flood operation, $21 million class settlement payout from Colombia. Compare this to how the hammer comes down on Arabs and Muslims experiencing actual systemic targeting, attacks, and abuse. Palestine is a generational freedom struggle, not a weepy Jewish grief circle. This person's a fucking psychopath and a piece of shit. Okay? This person is a fucking psychotic piece of shit. I'm sorry, Beef Supreme. I'm sorry, Officer Nasty. I'm sorry to whoever thinks that this article is fucking fire. You're a fucking retard, okay? Like, I'm sorry for using an ableist slur, but like, blessed, okay? Let's look up the definition of blessed. Blessed definition. Someone or something that is consecrated, holy, or divinely favored. So running around marauding in southern Israel throwing grenades at children, shooting them in the fucking face, chopping their fucking heads off is something that is divinely favored. That's fucked up. Like, can we just agree that that's fucked up? Okay, it seems like we dialed it back a little bit. Okay, all right. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Calling, you could. Sorry, let me make this differentiation for people real quick, just in case they don't understand. October 7, 2023 was a predictable terrorist attack by Hamas into southern Israel that resulted in roughly 800 to 900 civilians being massacred and 300 IDF soldiers getting massacred as well. Okay? Now, I understand that you could compare that to the casualties that the Palestinians have suffered, and then you would go, oh, well, the Palestinians have suffered way more, therefore who cares? But that's retarded. That's not how anything works. Like, if I shoot somebody in the face and I murder them, and then you go, oh, well, there's a civil war in Sudan where people are getting murdered all the time. Very clearly, me murdering someone is still bad, even if it's not as bad as, like, the civil war in Sudan, right? So if I said, my murder is blessed, it's divinely inspired, very clearly, I'm a fucking psychopathic, sociopathic fucking piece of shit. So this person, based off of looking at the casualties that Palestinians have suffered, looking at the casualties that the Israelis have suffered, and then saying that the casualties that the Israelis have suffered are blessed, i.e. divinely inspired, and or holy, and or sacrosanct, this person's a fucking R-slur, okay? And if you're like, oh, no, this is base, this is fire, this is popping off. Even if Doobie agrees with this, I don't care how much money he gives me. If he thinks that this article is fucking fire, I think he's an R-slur too. So, yeah. Let me make some gross noise sounds over here, and then let me, the divinely inspired My Lai massacre. Yeah, exactly. That's the same energy. Let me make some gross mouse sounds over here, and then let me come back and keep reading. Oh, okay. Of our own volition, Jewish people crowned Zionism as a central pillar of modern Judaism and fashioned Israel into our new God. A hyper-militarized golden calf for an increasingly faithless people, seeking a seat in the world above. White supremacy, settlerhood, nation-building, power within Euro-American empire. American with the triple K, that's cute. We seamlessly integrated Israel and Zionism into every facet of Jewish life globally. Zionism has no borders. Israel has not become fascistic vis-a-vis Netanyahu and the Likud party. Rather, Israel is innately fascistic because of its settler colonial structure. Same applies to Trump and the American, only a 1K this time. American, Christian crusading settler colony, Israel's blueprint, as Dr. Muhammad Abdu articulates in Islam and Anarchism. Wow. Islam and anarchism. What a sentence. America and Israel are both irreformable and irredeemable, built out of the world established in 1492, entities erected by genocidal settlers atop a mass indigenous graves. God, this might actually be... This is either performance art by Sam Hyde, or this is truly the most woke people on the planet. This is the wokest. We found them. We found the queen of woke people. Yeah. Almost half of the global Jewish population are Israeli settler squatters. They overwhelmingly supported the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, 80%, and the current U.S.-Israel war on Iran, 93%. Most of the rest of us live as privileged white settlers in colonies like so-called America, 41% of Jews. Those of us living in settler colonies outside of Israel also neglect our responsibility as settlers towards indigenous land back in black self-determination movements where we are. On Turtle Island, black and indigenous genocides have persisted for 533 years and counting. When I state that virtually all Jews in Jewish formations are Zionist, I'm including most of the very small number of Jews in Jewish organizations who self-identify as anti-Zionist or pro-Palestine. Okay. Scratch the surface and you'll find quickly that most are liberal Zionists, as Lara Kalani and the team at Good Shepherd Collective frequently note. All Jews who claim non-Zionism are Zionist in their politics because they always disparage the resistance and conflate colonizer with colonized. Example, we condemn both violence by Hamas and violence by Israel, or a coexistent future on the land for both Palestinians and Israeli Jews. Genuine Jewish anti-Zionists unwaveringly support the total Genuine Jewish anti-Zionists unwaveringly support the total eradication of Israel and the greater Satan, America, full land back without a speck of Zionist or Euro-American imperial settler colonial control. This includes Jewish supporting removing fellow Jews from Palestine while ensuring they don't do harm where they go, further displace indigenous peoples elsewhere, and open reverent support for Palestine armed resistance groups. Reverent support for Palestinian armed resistance groups. Reverent definition. A feeling or showing of deep respect, solemnity, or veneration, often bordering on worship. Where's that German chick? German girl killed by Hamas in back of truck. Shani Look. Okay, so this girl, this anti-Zionist wants you to look at this picture of Shani Look's desecrated corpse being dragged through the fucking streets of Gaza. And she wants you to look at these 5 overweight fucks with AK-47s, RPGs, who held up her fucking dreadlocked ass head like she was a fucking trophy, who snapped her fucking leg and shot her to death. They want you to look at these freedom fighters as they want you to look at this picture with reverence. Okay? She wants you to look at this fat, stupid fuck parading around this woman, her desecrated fucking corpse with her knee snapped backwards, holding onto her head like a fucking hunting trophy. And they want you to look on this picture with reverence. To be clear, fuck these people. To be clear, fuck the people in the picture and fuck this lady for writing this article. Okay? Just in case you didn't know where I was at, right? Excuse me. Reverent support for Palestine armed resistance. What a fucking wild sentence. Gaza's Mujahideen are at the heart of the struggle currently spearheaded by Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades, who executed the miraculous Al-Aqsa flood on October 7, 2023, an operation that genuine Jewish anti-Zionists unequivocally recognize as one of the most prolific anti-colonial operations in history. What a stupid bitch. What a stupid, vile bitch. It is exceedingly rare to find these political commitments amongst Jews, and still weak when found, as we have accomplished virtually nothing material or meaningful to stop our people from committing the most heinous and disgusting acts imaginable over the last century in occupied Palestine. Jewish people are currently raping Palestinians to death with hot metal rods in concentration camp prisons, and Jewish so-called allies living cozy lives in the imperial core still have the audacity to moan on about anti-Semitism and don't blame Jews for the actions of Israel. This Zionist nightmare is our moral responsibility as Jews to reckon with and war against within our own ranks. Yes, all Jews. Anonymous chatter for $2 says, Siri, play Girls Wanna Have Fun. While self-identification with the term Zionist has fallen out of favor as of late, support for the existence of Israel among Jewish people is still rock solid. As people of the world increasingly turn against Israel, having seen Zionism for the evil that it is, Jewish people have not budged on our fascistic commitments. Do you see heated confrontations over Jewish genocide breaking out at synagogues across the world? Do you see riots of internal strife inside Jewish community and religious spaces that sell stolen Palestinian land and host IDF, IOF, terrorists to speak and fundraise? No, of course not. Jews know it's expected to support Israelis at all shuls. This is considered normal Jewish life, our birthright in a world that perpetually hates us for no other reason other than that we're Jewish. Our delusions of Jewish innocence, our grandiose self-importance, our entitled death grip on the colony goes virtually uncontested within the Jewish community. So this is why I think this lady is a fucking R slur on top of everything else, okay? So she's like, I don't know if we can reclaim the morality of Moses. And once again, I'm going to point out to you that Moses' people, immediately after Moses' death, in alignment with Moses' desire, conquered Canaan, conquered the city of Jericho, fought the Philistines, claimed ancient Judah and ancient Israel. So, like, what moral ground are you reclaiming if the ancient, like Moses, the moral pillar of the Abrahamic faith, and Abraham, the foundation of the faith, and if the establishment of the state of Israel in the ancient world, in the same territory in which Israel is currently being established for the past century, what moral authority are you appealing to from the ancient past that isn't identical, right? Like, I'm not saying that Israel should be running around doing the fucking Amalekite genocide to the fucking Palestinians, but how... What previous historical moral authority are you appealing to, if not the location of ancient Israel and Judah? You know, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Now, what's interesting to me is I do think that it is kind of annoying sometimes when Jews are like, well, you just hate me for being Jewish. And it's like, no, I don't hate you because, and by the way, I don't hate Jews at all. I'm a philo-Semite, you know, I like my Jews. But anyways, let's say hypothetically that I hated Jews. I think it's awkward when you say, well, you hate me because I'm Jewish. And then if you look at like Judaism as a religious practice, it's like, well, I don't hate you because you go to synagogue instead of church. I don't hate you because you eat unleavened bread. I don't hate you because you celebrate Hanukkah, which is a commemoration of the Maccabean revolt. I don't hate you because you get Christmas presents. I know it's not Christmas, it's Hanukkah, but you get like one present every day for 11 days. I don't hate you that you had a bar mitzvah. I don't hate you that you make TV shows and movies about the Jewish experience. I don't hate that there's like a token Jew in every action movie ever who's like comedic relief. Like, I don't hate Jews because they're Jewish. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the anti-Jewish resentment comes from the existence of the state of Israel, right? So conflating racist hatred on virtue of mere existence compared to hatred because of the existence of the state of Israel, I wouldn't conflate those two things, because I do think that hating Jews just for existing is arguably worse than having some kind of like vicious geopolitical criticism of Zionism. Now, that being said, I think this lady's doing a really good job of jumping back and forth between like vicious Jewish self-hatred and geopolitical critique of the settler colonial state of Israel. So she's guilty of conflating these two concepts, but I don't think that Jews should like play into that conflation, right? You should either identify as a Zionist and stand on business and say, no, Jews lived in this territory in the ancient world. We don't have anywhere else to go besides America or Israel. The Middle East and North Africa has tons of territory that the Palestinians can live in. And as a result, any Palestinians who stay close to Israel need to try to live in peace and find a diplomatic solution with which to live with us. And realistically, if they don't want to live diplomatically and peacefully with the state of Israel, they can fuck off. And that should be like, you should just stand 10 toes down on that. You shouldn't fucking meander. You shouldn't whine. You shouldn't complain. You should just say, yeah, that's the way it is and fuck you, right? And then if you're anti-Zionist, then you just need to pick your degree of anti-Zionism, what she would call liberal anti-Zionism, which is like, well, what's happened has happened. Therefore, the state of Israel needs to continue to exist, but they shouldn't expand any further, and they should focus on internal development, diplomatic negotiations, and military strength to defend the current borders of the state of Israel, but they should not expand further because there's indigenous people that they're displacing. I think that would be like liberal anti-Zionism, right? And then I think the rabid anti-Zionism, the anti-Zionism that this lady is advocating for, is effectively like the state of Israel should just pick up stakes and move back to Europe, right? Like all the Ashkenazis should move back to Europe. All the Maghrebis should move back to Middle East and North Africa. All of the fucking Mizrahis, I don't even remember where everybody's from. But basically, the Jews should go back to the Middle East, North Africa, and Spain. And all the Europeans should go back to Eastern Europe. And realistically, weirdly enough, this chick, she doesn't think that any of the Jews should go back to America, even though America is where like half of Jews are, because she thinks all the Europeans should go back to Europe. So right now, if I was to listen to this lady, what I should do is I should sell all of my personal property. I should take only what I need to return to Ireland, and I should take the wealth and property generated by my family, and I should gift it to the Seminole tribe of Florida, right? I should gift it to the Creek Indians of Georgia and Florida, you know? Like, no offense, like, okay, I get the moral reasoning if you flatten time and if you don't believe that time exists as a concept. But I'm just telling you, the chances of me selling my property, gifting 80% of it to the Seminole tribe of Florida, and then moving back to Ireland with nothing but the shirt on my back and my family is very low. Like less than 1%. You know, Ireland's beautiful. The English are no longer genociding the Irish, so maybe it could be fun, but it's not high on my list of things to do. So, all right, let's keep going. This is considered normal Jewish life, our birthright in a world that perpetually hates us for no other reason. That's the one I read. Jewish Zionists see Palestine and align with the Jews because they're Jews. Jewish anti-Zionists see Palestine and align with the Palestinians because they are of the sacred below being crushed by the above, the salt of the earth fighting for dignity and liberation on their own land on their own terms. Holy cringe. The land indeed fights with them. We don't waver or flinch on our positions because it is fellow Jewish people who are the fascists running children over alive with tanks. Anti-Zionist commitments are ethical, not identitarian. Jewish people may differ on the Netanyahu government's policies, who should lead the Zionist entity, West Bank settlements, and the like. But once you assert support for Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades, and October 7th, advocate for removing Jews from Palestine, and promote the dissolution of the state of Israel in its entirety, you are considered by Jews to be a traitor to the Jewish community. I think descriptively, you are a traitor to the Jewish community. Like, definitionally, you're a traitor to the Jewish community. Jews with moral clarity lack the courage, the spine, the organization, the faith, the embodiment principles, or the embodied principles in the will to force Zionism out of Judaism, to Jews who also hate Israel and what it has wrought. Be proud when they call you a traitor to their death project. Let us be traitors unflinchingly. Did somebody donate? I feel like I saw a donation. Anonymous Chatter says, this comes across as a Hamas double agent writer. Kind of. All of Israel is an illegitimate settlement, and all Israelis are settlers and soldiers on stolen land, not civilians. The justification for shooting babies in the face. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, this is baby settlers rhetoric. This is stolen right from Hassan Piker. Both liberal and conservative cling to notions of Jewish settler futurity in a free Palestine, arrogantly writing themselves into Palestine's decolonized future, believing that Jewish settlers should get to remain on the land and keep at least some portion of their stolen spoils. Jewish anti-Zionists should not tolerate a whiff of this entitlement amongst our own people. Palestinians should not be expected to live alongside their genocidaires. Very fancy words. 2.5 years in, American-made bombs are still crashing from the sky as proudly Jewish pilots pound out life in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran, as proudly Jewish congregants around the world host and fly the Israeli flag, organized to get anti-Zionists fired, suspended, deported, and criminalized, facilitate settlements and trips to the entity, distribute resources to the Zionist military, and pray for God's protection over our precious Jewish colony that has created the largest generation of child amputees in modern history. That has displaced more than 1 million people in Lebanon as the violent ethnic cleansing campaign for Greater Israel ruthlessly expands. Synagogues are no longer holy. There is no God where Zionism dwells. Well, once again, what do you think Moses and the Israelites did 2,000 years ago? Or 3,000 years ago? What do you think established the religion of Judaism? Was it kumbaya? Was it fucking holding hands with the Canaanites? Did the Jews show up in the ancient land of Canaan and Jericho and fucking sing songs and fucking do a drum circle? Is this person a fucking dipshit? Synagogues, Jews in Euro-America send their kids to synagogue summer camps and Jewish schools, all Zionists, ultimately teaching them bald-faced lies about Israel, a land without a people for a people without a land. We made the desert bloom. I mean, they unironically, through slow drip agriculture, did make... Doesn't matter. Celebrating Israel's birthday, the Nakba, and preparing our Jewish children to one day become Zionist settlers and soldiers themselves, or to defend the Jewish state from wherever they are as a part of their identity and duty. It is the fault of their Jewish parents, teachers, and adults in the community who put Jewish children into these Zionist Jewish institutional pipelines that brainwash and shape young Jews in becoming propagandized anti-Arab, Islamophobic, nationalist, entitled zealots. They will be, as you are now, woefully out of touch with the moral pulse of humanity, which increasingly understands how profoundly evil Zionism and Israel are. Jews will be the last to see, the last to understand, and it's already way too late. Just more reason for those who still need it as to why people should not look to us Jews for analysis on Palestine. We do not say anything original anyways. It's all diluted, disembodied, and defanged through the looking glass of the Jewish propagandists who shaped us. Treat yourselves to perspectives that are not constrained and pressed through the esophagus of power. Clearly, Jewish... Oh my God, how much longer? I'm good. Are y'all good? Are y'all good? I'm good. I'm good. It's not that, like, maybe there's something else that we need. Maybe there's, like, a detail that they're going to mention during the debate. But I think we get it. Right? We get it. Okay. All right. Sounds like... Okay. All right. Sounds like everybody's on the same page. If there's something really like important, the Star of David as a hate symbol. Okay. Apparently IDF took a brand and or a knife and scratched a Star of David into this dude's face. Or they punched him with a fucking stamp that was a Star of David. And then they show Star of David graffiti and symbols in Palestine. And so they're arguing that the Star of David is a hate symbol. Palestinian bodies returned by Israel with organs professionally removed, says a surgeon. Well, I mean, if you do an autopsy, they're going to remove the vital organs. We return from hell. Palestinian journalists recount torture in Israeli prisons. Everything is legitimate. Israeli leaders defend soldiers accused of rape. Oh, sorry, I skipped the Gaza toddler. My bad. And and he, God, sent us against these swarm of birds. How Sinwar led Hamas to build a paragliding shell company and outmaneuver the Zionist on entity. Oh, praising their paragliding operation into a music festival. That's amazing. So, okay, anyways, I think we found, if this isn't a Poe, okay, if this isn't a troll, if this is not Hamas, if this is not a Sam Hyde alt, if that's a real person who articulated their sincere beliefs, number one, we found the wokest person on the planet. Like, let's make a crown. Let's make it out of some kind of, like, properly sourced shit. Like, ethically sourced silver and gold, you know? And then let's make a crown for the wokest person on the planet, and let's give it to that lady. Number two, I think we should make a trophy as well, and we should give it to her for being the most self-hating Jew on the planet. This person has actually won 2 awards today, the wokest person on the planet and the biggest self-hating Jew on the planet. Truly, they are like a master of these disciplines. So, conservative liberalism says you breeze through the hyperlinks that you said that you're going to address. Dude, if I address the fucking hyperlinks, we're going to be here for the next, like, 2 hours, okay? Let's just presume Israel bad, okay? Let's presume Israel did some war crimes. And they weren't funny war crimes like when the United States does it. Like, when the United States does war crimes, typically they're a little bit funny, so we get a pass. Let's just assume that Israel didn't do funny war crimes. Let's presume that they did fucked up war crimes, okay? Let's just assume that for the sake of argument. You're more than welcome. You know, you are more than welcome to go click on the article yourself, click on the hyperlinks yourself, analyze the information yourself, and then come to your own conclusion. I allow that as a streamer. You don't have to, like, have your opinions chewed up by me like a mommy bird and then fucking spit them into your mouth like you're a little baby bird. You're actually allowed to research things by yourself. So, just wanted to share. Anyways, so okay. I'm a tepid Zionist, conservative liberalism. So, once again. Okay, good. Good. All right. So anyways, Doobie, what's the funniest war crime? Ooh. I like Fallujah. I think Fallujah's funny. So, for those of you who don't know, can I summarize a really funny war crime that the United States did? So, it's fucked up. It's definitely fucked up, but it's still pretty funny. So what happened is the United States, hold on, let me back up a little bit. So we invaded Iraq, right? And there was this organization called Blackwater, which was a private military company. They effectively provided security guards for our convoys while we were invading. And they did do high-speed, low-drag operations as well, but we're just going to talk about the Motor T security guys. So some Blackwater Motor T security in soft-shell vehicles, they go into Fallujah very early in the war. And what happens is they get ambushed and killed. The city rakes them with AK-47 fire, drags the bodies out, hangs them from a bridge, and sets their corpses on fire. And the Marine Corps general, who was in the area of operations, actually sends up a request to George Bush saying, hey, it's a hot war. Lots of people are dying. Let's not freak the fuck out about these burned, desecrated corpses of Blackwater. And George Bush was like, no, it's on the news. We need to freak the fuck out. Okay? So we freak the fuck out. We go into Fallujah and we just start blowing shit up. Like, literally, like, there's a building right there. People start shooting at us. We put a fucking tank round through the window. And so the Iraqi government says, hey, man, there's a lot of civilians still in the area, and we're getting a lot of complaints that you guys are just turbo fucking and murder fucking everything within your vicinity. Can you stop blowing up buildings that are shooting at you with tank rounds because you're probably killing a shitload of civilians. And the Marine Corps was like, fine, I guess we'll stop blowing up buildings. So what we do is we surround the city of Fallujah and we start dropping leaflets. For 6 months, okay, we're dropping leaflets. And the leaflets say the same thing over and over and over again over 6 months. We're literally airdropping leaflets, airdropping leaflets, airdropping leaflets. And the leaflets say, we know there's insurgent elements inside the city. We are coming to fucking kill everyone. If you are a civilian, get the fuck out, right? And that's what the leaflets say. There's bad guys in the city. We're coming to kill them all. If you're a civilian, get the fuck out, right? And so shitloads of people get the fuck out. Like literally like 70% of the city empties. Most of the civilians get out. And what happens too, that the United States partially allows, is there's insurgents who sneak in. They sneak in. So there's like the mass convoy of people leaving the city of Fallujah, and then there's a trickle of military-aged males who are going nearby American checkpoints, and then they go 50 to 100 yards off of the roadway, and then they walk into the city of Fallujah, and we let them do it a little bit. Because we basically know everybody that we let into the city is going to be somebody who wants to fight us, and if we kill them here, we don't have to hunt them down later. Now, what's fucked up about it is that we did give them 6 months to prepare. So they made spider holes, they hooked up IEDs to doorways, they put up IEDs in the roadways, they put bombs in, buildings and shit to sneak us in and then kill us and like all that kind of shit. So unfortunately, we do give the insurgents time to prepare, and that probably cost American lives. It just did. There were American Marines, 19 to 22-year-old kids who were infantrymen who got killed as a result of this adopting this tactic. But we probably did save civilian lives. I'm trying to get to the funny part. That's not funny, but it's pretty fucking cool. So what happens is after 6 months, we're like, okay, it's game time. Let's go. And what happens is a combined Army and Marine Corps element, I think it was on the south side of the city, but it could have been the western side of the city. I forget. But they take 3 or 4 blocks into the city. They literally clear every single building, but then they get an aggressive vantage point inside the city. So any escaping forces that were inside the Battle of Fallujah, they're going to be forced to run towards machine guns. Okay? They're going to be forced to run towards javelins and tanks and machine guns and M16s and M4s. And so what the Marines do on, I forget if it's the West or the East or whatever, but they effectively do a pincer movement where they collapse the entire city by clearing it with grenades and tank fire and white phosphorus. And white phosphorus is super fucked up, but it's kind of funny how we justified using it. So, there's a hammer and there's an anvil. And so the anvil is the 3 or 4 blocks that we've occupied. The hammer is Marine forces maneuvering into the city in order to fuck up jihadists. And they are fucking up jihadists, dude. Literally, we jump into a room. There's a dude with a machine gun. He fires at you. Maybe your point man gets hurt. Maybe your point man doesn't get hurt. But basically, there's a bad guy in there. And then Marines are just like, fuck that. And they just start throwing in grenades. Just M62 fucking grenades all day. Just fucking grenade, 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 grenade. Okay, go in and kill everybody. And so we start killing everybody with grenades. But then the insurgents are so well dug in some buildings that they start attacking Marines and succeeding. They injure or kill one guy. They injure the guy behind him, et cetera, et cetera. They're raking the dude's corpse with machine gun fire. They're dropping grenades on American Marines. It's hard to get the corpses out, all that kind of stuff. And so the Marines basically fight super hard in order to get the corpses out of the buildings. But once the corpses are out of the buildings, They're like, fuck that. That's a trap. We're not going to keep feeding Marines to concentrated fire. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to put enough explosives into the building that we bring the entire building down. And so they use Bradley 20 millimeter cannons. They use M1 Abrams fucking 100 millimeter, 105 millimeter, 120 millimeter main guns. They put satchel charges on the roofs. They drop grenades into the fucking building, and they just blow up the entire fucking building. Which brings me to Willie Pete. So white phosphorus is a fucked up way to die. Okay? White phosphorus is a fucked up way to die. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's a chemical. Give me a second. Let me look up what white phosphorus is real quick. White phosphorus. White phosphorus is a highly toxic, waxy, yellow to white solid that ignites spontaneously in the air at temperatures above 86 degrees Fahrenheit, emitting a garlic-like odor. It is used extensively for producing phosphoric acid, which includes fertilizers, and it's used in military munitions for smoke screens, illumination, and incendiary purposes. It causes severe, deep burns, and its use in populated civilian areas is often considered a war crime due to its indiscriminate nature. Okay? So what we do, because white phosphorus is supposed to be used for illumination, but we use white phosphorus for smoke screens and illumination in broad daylight. Okay? So we shoot fucking white phosphorus tank shells and I think air munitions too into Fallujah, effectively setting entire buildings on fire. And the way that you die when you're in a cloud of white phosphorus is you breathe fire. Okay? You breathe the air that is on fire. And it burns your skin like 3 or 4 fucking layers. Like, it causes like 3rd-degree burns. It fucks you up. And so, effectively, if an insurgent team successfully defended a building for too long, they either got the building collapsed on their heads or they were set on fire by a cloud of white smoke. Yeah. Yeah. So, they call it Willie Pete to make it sound cute. A white phosphorus t-shirt. Where is it? There was a white phosphorus t-shirt that was for sale. And I did think it was funny. But I couldn't wear it in good conscience because it was so fucked up. It was like an A-10 Warthog dropping like a white phosphorus canister on Iraqi Mujahideen cartoon characters that were running away. And I was like, this is a really cool t-shirt. It's actually so fucked up, I could never own it or wear it. So anyways, the point is that like we used Willie Pete. So, is it kind of fucked up that we burn people to death in the worst way possible, imaginable? One of the worst ways to go that I can think of. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Is it funny that we had dickheads who were fucking with us so bad that we stretched the laws of warfare in order to set those motherfuckers on fire? I definitely thought it was funny when I was in the service. I definitely thought that it was like, holy shit. You know? Yeah. Yeah. You have a fucking gunnery sergeant who's like, yeah, fuck him. A fucking... Dude, some fucking like salty 28-year-old who looks like he's 50, who lost 3 friends in the Battle of Fallujah. And he's like, yeah, they killed a few of my friends, so we fucking war crimed them. And then he laughs. You're going to laugh with him, you know? Yeah, somebody was like, what was the funny part? Yeah, so anyways, moving on from the trauma. Let's see Doobie Steelman, the wokest woman alive, and the Jewish self-hatred. Do we need a second, chat? Do we need a second to like recuperate from me just like casually reciting a war crime that almost nobody found funny except for me? And now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually not funny. The reason why it's funny is because we were coping with the psychological horror of the fact that like some of our peers and some of our supervisors had their friends murdered. Not murdered. They had their friends killed in warfare. And so they stretched the laws of war in order to like murder people in the worst way possible. Do we need a second? It's just Avi for $2 says, where's your beard? I haven't seen your face all these years, lol. It's going to grow back. I'm probably going to grow it back. Talk about 40K war crimes? I don't think we need to. Yeah, Daddy in chat says, why do you find dark things funny? It's the trauma. Yeah, whoops. Okay. My bad. I thought I was going to tell you something humorous, and I just recited to you war crimes. All right. Anyways, quick shill. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage your chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I think we did sufficiently set up the debate. We read a healthy chunk of the article. Doobie's going to try to steelman the wokest person on planet Earth, and also the Jew who hates themselves the most. And Wick is going to wick the fuck out on him. Let's see how it goes.
Hello.
Just making sure that you know that you are being recorded, that everything is there.
Yeah,
so.
that's okay. Do you want the frog?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, sir. Okay.
frogs get the views, okay?
Okay. Yeah, frogs get all the ladies.
Is that, I don't think a lot
That's
of
why
my
it
audience is
exists.
ladies,
Yeah.
to be clear, but I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, you can convince them that if they kiss it, they might turn into a princess or whatever.
Ooh. Now I know why Grassroots and I are friends. So Grassroots Hegemon said for $10 says, I asked my dad why they made the Benelli M4, a shotgun, illegal for anything but room clearing and door breaching, and he said, I shot a lot of doors that were wearing sandals. Yeah. Okay, this is why we're friends.
Fuck that story goes. So, it works sometimes.
Maybe. I think that if they kiss you, then you turn into a prince. I think that's how that story goes, but I could be wrong. It's been a while.
Yeah, maybe. One of those things.
Anyway, let's just kind of get to it. So kind of set the stage for us here. You called in last week and wanted to talk about the article, and you said it wasn't anti-Semitic. Give us your thoughts then.
So I'm just gonna lay this out like as simply as possible, right?
Okay.
To avoid getting bogged down. But my position is that, like, well, first off, can you define anti-Semitism? Like, when you say anti-Semitism, or you think it's anti-Semitic,
Sure.
like, what do you mean?
I like, personally, the Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism that was made on in 2021. And they go through, and it's a very simple one. Anti-Semitism is discrimination, prejudice, hostility, or violence against Jews as Jews or Jewish institutions as Jewish. And there's several guidelines that it goes through, right? Like, so you can criticize or oppose Zionism or Israeli policies harshly. That is not anti-Semitic, according to this definition. But if you essentialize or make sweeping negative generalizations about Jews as a group or hold Jews collectively responsible for Israelis' actions, that is anti-Semitic. So that's the definition I use.
I was muted. Okay. I'm actually perfectly okay with Wick's definition. And I understand that it might be inconvenient for the anti-Zionists, but even in the stats that we saw in the article, it was like 80% of Jews identify as Zionist and 20% of Jews identify as anti-Zionist. I think if you're going to treat the anti-Zionists who want to eliminate the state of Israel and they're Jews, but they're not vocal enough, and if you're going to treat the anti-Zionists who want to freeze the borders and stop having the IDF, annex territory, and you want to treat the pro-Zionists who want to expand Israel as aggressively as possible, then yeah, I think like you're being fucking racist, right? Like, imagine in a scenario where I basically I'm like all black people, right? And this will be extra funny and extra racist because you could definitely clip this out of context. But what if I said all black people? What if I said that, yeah, maybe only, 5 per 100,000 or 20 per 100,000 in the black community commit homicides. But the truth is that this is such a disproportionate issue in the black community that any black person who commits any crime whatsoever, you could be driving with your license suspended. You could be getting a ticket for 5 miles over the speed limit. You could do all that kind of stuff. You're just as bad as the drug dealers who fucking commit homicide. And then I say, oh, well, black folk in general, because obviously this is a statistically disproportionate issue within the black community. Even working class black folk who have never committed a crime in their lives, but they look the other way when there's drug dealers in their community, they are complicit and just as guilty as the people who commit homicide. I think you would rightfully call me, if I was espousing that opinion, I think you would say that's racist as fuck. I think you would say that's racist as fuck, right? I think that's the collective guilt of people committing crimes, people neutral to crime, and people fucking committing crime, and then people committing crimes worse than other crimes, saying that they're all guilty is fucked up as shit. So I think that analog is decently fine. Somebody does submit a counter argument, though. Where is it? Black people aren't inextricably linked through their ethnos religion to an illiberal state. Well, I think the liberalism of the state is disputed. And just because they're not ethno-religiously tied to black criminality doesn't mean that they're not racially tied. So what's the... What I understand that you're saying it's disanalogous because the collective variable that I'm holding black people to account through is different than the collective variable of the Jewish people. But how would ethnos necessarily be morally different than racially? Right? What if I just said Bantu, right? What if I said Bantu descended people?
Okay.
Because Bantu descended people disproportionate. What if I made it ethnic? Okay, hold on. F11 is full screen. Give me a second. So I'm going to get super racist with you real quick. So language group map in Africa. Okay. So what if I only held the Bantu responsible for criminality in America? Like this group, right? We have the Khoisan, the Bantu, the Nilo. I can't read that. It's fucking blurry as shit. Where is it? But the truth is the Bantu are 95% of African slaves in the United States are descended from the Bantu. So what if I made it ethnic where I said, no, the Khoisan are fine. Even though the Khoisan actually, weirdly enough, have a reputation for crime in Africa, right? What if I said the Khoisan are fine, the Nilo fucking Saharan are fine, the North African are fine. It's just the Bantu. It's just the Bantu who are collectively responsible for black criminality in the United States. Like, clearly, I changed the dynamic, but it's still going to 95% apply to fucking black folk, right? So, wouldn't that still be, like, bigoted as fuck? Even if it wasn't technically racist? Hedonic Samuel for 5 says, your debate last night triggered a 20-minute argument with my wife. Based. Let's go. I hope you fight your wife about conspiracy theories. Anyways, I'm already getting distracted with advanced racism.
So I'm totally fine with just
Do you
using.
agree with that definition broadly? I mean,
broadly, yes.
where would you disagree? I guess.
I guess it'd be in the framing, right? So for example, if I were to say that all Catholics have a responsibility to target or to tackle the systemic abuse that was happening in the Catholic Church, which was a very common thing. It's going around about Catholics. The Catholic community needs to target this or speak out against this. And if they didn't, they were told to be like complicit because their silence was complicity. Very similar thing happens with Muslims after a terrorist attack, right? Muslim leaders are called to speak out against it, to condemn it, yada, yada. And if they don't, this is taken as complicity in some way, right? So I think that this kind of like demand for some sense of like collective responsibility for a political ideology or the actions that arise because of a political ideology. This isn't really attacking the group for being the group or attacking something inherent about the group itself.
So,
but it's more there's an issue. It's more that there is an issue within your community, and because you are part of this community, you have a responsibility to tackle that issue. Like, I think that is what she's doing,
Yeah.
and I think that the way that the framing of this holding Jews collectively responsible thing, I think that if they were to just hold to those words themselves, it'd be a double standard that we don't apply to other communities, which would also be anti-Semitic.
So you wouldn't consider, just to be clear, like, so let's use the terrorism example that you brought up with the Muslim community and things like that. You wouldn't think it to be Islamophobic or anti-Muslim to demand that every Muslim in a community, like say Dearborn, Michigan, for example, condemn the actions of a terrorist group across the world. Like, so.
God damn it, I muted myself again. So this actually is interesting because I think Doobie correctly fights a mainstream conservative position that Muslims, because of the correlation between Islam and jihadist terrorism, is strong enough globally that Muslims are collectively responsible for jihadist terrorism. And if they don't speak out against the radicalism and jihadist sentiment within their own communities, then in some ways they are responsible, right, for the jihadist terrorism that is so common across the globe. But I think weirdly enough, liberals and progressives say that that's Islamophobic, right? So isn't that kind of funny that like the roles get reversed where like normally, I understand Doobie is a heterodox guy, but normally you're holding Muslims collectively responsible for jihadist terrorism. So Doobie, by logical extension, is taking that argumentation and applying it to Jews. But oftentimes liberals and progressives will argue that that's Islamophobic because 99%, well, not 99%, let's be real, it's like 80%. But 80% of Muslims don't like jihadist terrorism. They actually like Islamism, weirdly enough, but they don't like jihadism, right? They don't like the indiscriminate massacre of civilians in the name of Islam. So if you're arguing that holding Muslims collectively responsible for jihadist terrorism is Islamophobic, then you should be on the side of holding Jews collectively responsible for Zionism is anti-Semitic. The parallel is 1-to-1. Doobie's a heterodox guy, though, so maybe he does think that Muslims are collectively responsible for jihadist terrorism and have a duty to police extremism within their own communities, and in that way, he would actually be being fairly logically consistent.
Say, the Houthis do something horrific, right? Or Hezbollah does something horrific, kills a bunch of U.S. Marines, something like that. And people go around to random Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, and demand that they take a stand on this, right? You don't see any problem with that? You don't think that would be Islamophobic? I do. I think that would be very Islamophobic. I think that would be very anti-Muslim. I think that would be bigoted in a real way. Some guy in Dearborn, Michigan has nothing to do with Hezbollah or the Houthis. They have no real connection to them. They happen to share a religion, right? They happen maybe even to be from the same region, but that doesn't give us the right to demand that someone who has no real connection apologize or be held responsible for or even condemn, right? They would be justified in telling anyone who told them that they needed to condemn the actions of a group they're not connected to fuck off. Do you disagree with that?
I think that this is a misunderstanding of the Houthis, even, right? So the Houthis aren't committing terrorism, quote unquote. I don't think most of it is terrorism, actually, because committing terrorism, quote unquote. I don't think most of it is terrorism, actually, because of Islam. They're a militia group in a region of the world that is acting for political reasons, not because of Islam, right? They have regional interests that they're fighting for and defending, right?
They say that.
Well, hold on. Like Pete Hegseth says that we're fighting this war for God. Is that true? No, it's not true, right? So the United States is not fighting a war for Christianity, even if Pete Hegseth says so, right?
I understand that, which is why it would be weird to demand a Christian who's fucking in South America to condemn, right, what Pete Hegseth claims he's doing in the name of God. Yeah, even though they're both Christian, even I don't know if I'd actually call Pete Hegseth an actual Christian, but that's another debate, right?
Right.
But like, you would understand how it would be problematic, it would be bad, it would be bigoted to demand all Christians everywhere condemn that, something that is done in their name, but they have no connection to.
No, I think they should. I think you should encourage Christians to condemn it. If their religion is being used to justify atrocities, I think people who hold to this religion are responsible in some way for calling it out and cutting that rod out of the community. And I would say the same about Christian nationalism, right? So if there are evangelical churches where Christian nationalism is a problem and it's a massive issue growing in Christian communities in the U.S., I think it is a responsibility of these communities to police themselves and say, hey, that we are not part of this movement, and this movement is not Christianity. I think it's totally fine to say this, and I don't think it's bigoted in any way. I think inter-community critique, intra-community critique is totally normal. It's something that happens across all other communities. I really don't understand why we'd have a specific carve-out for religion or for Jews in this case.
So I think that intra-community critique can be done in ways that are perfectly fine and perfectly valid. I don't necessarily, as a concept, think, like, if I was to critique Mormonism or streamers, right? We'll use streamers as a group, right? I can call, like, I think streamers have been very negative in how they deal with the mentally ill, right? I think that they use them for clicks, for views, all these things. I think they exploit them in many ways. I think that streamers as a whole kind of do this, but it would be wrong of me to then hold an individual streamer who has not done this responsible in any way, shape, or form to demand that they renounce this kind of behavior. It would be putting a burden on them that they do not deserve and do not share because they haven't engaged in that behavior. They haven't done it. And I'm against collective punishment as a whole. And I think that what this article is calling for in a very real way is a collective punishment to Jews as a whole, to Judaism as a whole. I mean, it has, we can go through the quotes if you like, but it talks several times about how if a Jew wants the target to be off their back, they have to enthusiastically support the Al-Qasim brigades to praise the glory and miracle of October 7th, burdens that we would never put on any other group, or we should.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of wild? So hold on. This is where it jumps the shark for me, and it actually does become like so obviously anti-Semitic that it's kind of funny. So imagine, let's keep going with my analogy, and you guys are like, well, this isn't the same as like ethnos. This isn't the same as religion. Religion and ethnos aren't the same. And what if so what if I made it ethnos? Okay. So, because I'll try to make this as analogous as possible. Bantu descended black folk in America are disproportionately responsible for crime in the United States. So I'm not holding them racially accountable. I'm holding them ethnically accountable, the same way that we could say that Jewishness is a broad ethnicity with sub-ethnicities of Ashkenazi and, Mizrahi and Maghrebi and all that kind of stuff. And arguably, like, the Ashkenazi are the most settler colonial out of the Jews, right? So they have the most burden when it comes to the Zionist project. So from an analogous standpoint, I have made it one-to-one because I've turned it in away from race and I've made it ethnos, okay? So Bantu descended West Africans in America are disproportionately committed for crime. So let's say that I was black. My temptation to say the N-word with an A right there was almost overwhelming. But let's say that I was black. And let's say that I said, oh, all black people are responsible for the criminality in the black community, and we have to police ourselves and this, that, the other, and it's a shame that we don't police ourselves, and hip-hop culture has run away with criminality, and the endorsement of gangster culture is intrinsically linked with West African, Bantu, American identity. And so until we kill gangster culture that's inside hip-hop, then the black community is guilty of all the rapes and murders that happen in our community until the end of time. And then let's take it a step further. Okay, let's take it a step further. Let's say that unless you're willing to praise Derek Chauvin, the cop who kneeled on George Floyd's neck, unless you're willing to praise Derek Chauvin as a representative of anti-black criminality, then you are a piece of shit. That is, in my opinion, I don't even think that you could tell me from an analogy standpoint, what's incorrect. Subri Kellis' Trash Panda talking points. You'd have to tell me what the analogy isn't, right? You would have to tell me, because I made it ethnos. It's not racial. It's ethnos. Arguably, Jewishness is an ethnos. There's a subculture within Judaism, which is Zionism. It might be disproportionately represented within that concept, but Zionists and Jews would find praising the Al-Qassam brigades as an insane fucking bridge too far, like an insane demand, the same way that I think even black critics of criminality within the black community would be wildly upset if you said that you needed to praise police brutality because police brutality was a natural reaction to black criminality. Of course it would be racist as fuck. Of course it would be fucking insane. The only way that a lefty or progressive could get away from this analogy being one-to-one is arguing power dynamics, right? That's the only way that you could get away from this argumentation to say, oh, well, black people are an oppressed minority and blah, 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 blah. Therefore, power dynamic, power dynamic, power dynamic. Therefore, this doesn't apply. That's the only fucking way you're getting away from this analogy being one-to-one. So, yeah, fuck that. That is, number one, that's obviously racist as shit. It's obviously fucking insane. And categorizing that as intra-community critique feels incredibly generous to the original article. Okay?
Not put on any other group. And if they are to be put on any other group, we would rightly call them out as bigoted. But because, for whatever reason, Israel breaks people's brains, we think it's okay to call on some Jewish guy in Brooklyn and hold them responsible for what's happening in Israel. And they're not. They're simply not.
Wait, but wait, this isn't true. I just gave you multiple examples where exactly this kind of structure is applied, and we have no issue with it. So white people, for example, when Obama said that all white people have a responsibility to tackle racism, when Biden said that racism is a white man's problem, right? I don't think they're like anti-white
Those were
bigots for
bigoted
this.
statements to make.
No, that's silly.
Why
would that be a bigoted statement?
There were facially bigoted statements today. To say that all white men carry the burden of racism is something that we have as a society largely begun to reject. We adopted it because we were crazy for some reasons, and we wanted to overlook that bigotry, but it is a form of bigotry. It is a form of racism, and it was rightfully called out by a lot of people. Even when my side does it, quote unquote my side, right? Even when Obama does it, even when Biden does it, those are bigoted, racist statements, and they should not be made.
Okay, so to be clear, you believe that when Obama and Biden said that there is a racism issue in the white community, there's a growing white nationalist issue in the white community, and because of because white people are also part of this community, they have a responsibility to call it out, to push it out of their community. You think that that statement makes them bigots, makes them like anti-white?
Dude, I actually love this. I'm sorry, but I do think this is really rich. Like, once again, Doobie is a heterodox character, so I don't expect him to hold beliefs firmly in line with liberal or progressive shit. But, like, arguing for collective guilt for Jews and collective guilt for white folk is so fucking funny, because now we can just do collective guilt for Muslims. And we're not Islamophobes. You know? Disproportionately, Islamism and jihadism correlates with the Muslim identity. There's a problem with extremism within the Muslim community. Therefore, Ali, my Lebanese friend, my Lebanese online friend, he needs to come onto my stream right now, and he needs to disavow jihadist terrorism. And every time there's a jihadist terrorist attack, I'm going to hold Ali collectively responsible for jihadist terrorism. Same thing with every fucking black person. Dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, black people in my chat. I'm sorry that we've gotten along for so long because I viewed you as individuals with your own lives and your own responsibilities. But based off of Doobie's collective guilt argument, I'm going to have to hold you guys accountable for criminality in the black community. I'm sorry that you work your job, pay your bills, pay your taxes, take care of your family, got educated, got employed, try to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. But realistically, through the collective guilt analysis, I now have to hold you accountable for black criminality. So, come apologize to me for hip hop, okay? T.I.P., okay? He has a whole bunch of hip-hop music in the 2010s that glorifies gangster culture. So I would like you to come on my show, and I would like you to apologize for the lyrics done by T.I. and T.I.P. that glorifies gangster culture. Okay? Yeah. So, okay. Fair enough. I can't wait to do this the next time I'm hanging out with my black friends. Please apologize. Okay, please apologize for black criminality. Officer Nasty says, to be fair, I don't think he's calling for any punishment. He's saying that asking a group to take responsibility for the things they're doing isn't inherently bad. Okay, fair enough. And I will accept that line of argumentation. I just think it has really funny implications. And also, not only does it have really funny implications, but, Destiny should apologize for the Gooner community. True. Destiny, as an extension of the Gooner community, should have to apologize for P. Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein. right? Since we're doing the collective guilt. As a matter of fact, the pile people in the community, apologize for Jeffrey Epstein now, okay? Apologize for P. Diddy now, okay? Because the ultimate extension of gooning is nihilistic, selfish sex. And so the pile people must apologize for the sins of P. Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein now, okay? Do it now. Rat suits for the 10 says there's only two things in this world Doobie can't stand, who are people who are intolerant and other people's cultures and the Jews. Listen, to be clear, I do not agree with what he's saying. I just think it's very funny. Yeah. Yeah. Gay people, apologize for gay Zach. Now, apologize for all the gays that are doing meth and having 30 people orgies without condoms. Apologize. Apologize for all the gays having unprotected orgies. Dude, I'm gonna walk over. I'm gonna walk over to my gay neighbor's house, and because they've been like a married couple for like 30 fucking years. I'm gonna walk over to the gay married couple on my block, and I'm gonna say, "What are you doing to police the promiscuity in the gay community? What are you doing?" Apologize. Apologize for monkeypox now. Beef Supreme says, I apologize for gay Zach and gay orgies. You're not invited to. Okay, I'm sorry for laughing so hard. But once again, I don't agree with this logic. I do think it's funny. I do think it's really funny, and I do think it implies a lot of really awkward, fucked up conversations. And yeah, I kind of love it. I kind of love it.
I don't think that alone would do it. I think that when you start to hold them responsible if they don't, then it becomes a problem. So again, in this article, I think you're soft selling it. The author does not simply say all Jews have a responsibility to call out Judaism or to call out Israel for its actions, its genocide in Palestine, for its terrible behavior in a lot of other ways, apartheid, whatever, right? She goes much further than that. I'm going to read you a couple of these quotes. Okay. We Jews are the fascistic overlords, the vicious propagandists and funders. The militarized soldier settlers. Modern Judaism reflects terrorism, slaughter, blood, sadism, rape, and organ theft. Jews now dwell in and animate the age of a totalitarian Judaism. This is, on its face, an essentializing statement that we would not apply to any other group. Or if it is applied to any other group, we would absolutely call it out for being bigoted and racist and essentializing. So, for example, if Biden had said, we whites are the fascistic overlords, the vicious propagandists and funders, the militarized soldier, colonial settlers, right? Modern whites reflect terror, slaughter, blood, sadism, rape, and organ theft. Yeah, that would be fucking racist to say. That would be super racist.
Okay, so first off, what you're attacking right now is the harshness of the critique, right? Not the structure of the critique itself. So I agree that it's harsh. A lot of her language is very inflammatory, very bombastic. I wouldn't use some of the language she uses. That doesn't make it anti-Semitic. It doesn't make it like a bigoted.
No, it does.
What seems to me is that, hold on. So what she's actually doing in this article is identifying an issue within her own community and saying we are not doing enough to fight this issue, and because we're not doing enough, we are complicit. Which is again the same structure that was used to say that all men have a responsibility to fight rape culture, for example. All white people have a responsibility to fight racism. All Catholics have a responsibility to fight systemic abuse in the Catholic Church. All Muslims have a responsibility to attack terrorist ideologies in their communities or jihadism in their communities. Like, this is very similar to all these other. I mean,
No,
Jewish
again,
prophets.
there's a
Wait,
difference.
Jewish
And this-
prophets
you keep doing
were
this trick.
extremely critical of their community in way more inflammatory language than she used. Would you say that they are anti-Semitic because they call their community vipers? They called Israel a community of vipers.
A nest of
Is that
vipers.
anti-Semitic?
The problem here
Yeah, nest of vipers.
is the trick you're doing here, where you try to kind of like
There's no
jump
trick.
from this is just harsh critique, and I think you jump over the other step that they are doing. They aren't just using harsh words to identify people who have engaged in behaviors that they find reprehensible. They are saying that all Jews are not only responsible to call this out, but responsible for it. And there's a substantive difference saying you have a responsibility as a member of a group to condemn X, Y, or Z. There's problems with that. I have problems with that. But she goes further than that. And she's not only says not only do you have a responsibility to call this out, but you're guilty of this. You're responsible for this, and you deserve to pay for this.
Do you think it was wrong to impose denazification on Germans after World War II?
No, I don't think it was wrong to impose.
Why didn't that hold all Germans collectively responsible for Nazism?
I think that if they were like shooting people who hadn't done anything, then that's a problem, right? Or if they were calling on the death of people or to imprison people in Germany who had not engaged in any of the Nazi rhetoric, who had not participated in the Nazi rhetoric. Because, well, let me ask you this. In the denazification of Germany, do you think it would have been okay to demand an American German face that same denazification? Like someone who lived in America all their lives, hadn't even been to Germany, just happens to be of Germanic descent.
No, but I think that you're...
Okay, but that's what she's doing with the Jews.
No, really quickly. No, because what she's talking about isn't Israel itself. She's talking about Zionism, the ideology of Zionism. And if you were to look at I think there have been polls on this, and like over like 90% of Jews consider...
I think it's 80%. Let me Google this real quick, because the difference between 80% and 90% might seem like a distinction without a difference, but I don't think it is. So how many Jews identify as Zionist? Okay. Oh, shit, it is 90%. Estimates of how many Jews are Zionists vary, often depending on how Zionism is defined. A 2026 Jewish Federation of North America survey found that while 80% of American Jews support Israel's right to exist as a Jewish democratic state, only 40% explicitly identified as Zionists, with 15% identifying as non-Zionist or anti-Zionist. Oh, shit. No. It is 80%. It is around 80%. So I would say that holding the 1 out of 5 Jews who is not, Zionist. And this is, I actually probably need to do another mind map, but I'll just try to describe it real quick. There's different kinds of Zionism, right? And I would say that the most extreme, but also not the most popular branch of Zionism would say that we are religious literalists. We believe that Abraham and Moses and their descendants were promised this territory between the eastern Nile and the western Euphrates. It is the Jewish people's, birthright from God to occupy this territory as it was ordained 3,200 years ago. And so we should occupy Israel. We could have a shitload of babies. Not only should we annex the West Bank and southern Lebanon and Gaza, but eventually it's going to be our job to populate and take over Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia. It's going to be our job to populate those territories eventually through a colonial project. That's the most extreme form of Zionism. And frankly, I don't think I don't think that anybody... I'm sure that's not a large part of the population, because a shitload of Jews are secular. What percentage of Jews are secular? Approximately half of Jews in the U.S. and Israel identify as secular, cultural, or having no religion, making it a very large, if not the largest segment of the population of the US. About 30% identify as Jews of no religion, while in Israel, approximately 45% identify as secular. So literally half the Jewish population identifies as like not even really religious at all. Like they're Jewish in identity through ethno-religious heritage, but they're effectively like the way that people claim, and I claim, to be a cultural Christian is the same way that they would claim to be cultural Jews. Gnostic says, hey, tell your wife she should read Stephen King's Desperation, great novel. It addresses theodicy. Theodicy. Interesting. Okay, I'll recommend it. Who is this? Focus Lady for 5 says, making it everyone's fault except for the perpetrator is a massive part of the problem of identity politics. Yeah. And hasn't progressivism largely been like fought back on this identitarian line of holding all white people responsible collectively for the sins of white folk, right? Didn't we push back on this over the past 5 or 10 years? Didn't this line of thinking, relatively speaking, die out? I do think it's funny because it allows me to be Islamophobic without apology. So I'm with Doobie, okay? I side with Doobie. All Jews can be collectively held responsible, regardless of how they feel about the Zionist project, regardless of whether or not they're ultra-Zionist, greater Israel religious freaks, regardless of whether or not they're greater Israel in that they just want southern Lebanon, the West Bank, and Gaza, or if they want to freeze the borders and have a two-state solution, or if they want to move all Jews into America and or Europe, then all Jews are responsible for Zionism, okay? And that makes all Muslims responsible for jihadist terrorism. That makes all black folk responsible for criminality and disproportionate criminality in the black community. And it makes all white people guilty of the systemic sins of the settler colonial American project. So, fuck it. You know, you want to hold me accountable for all the sins of white people? I'll hold you accountable for all the sins of your people. It'll be fucking hilarious. Who is this? Is this anonymous chatter for $2? Says behind, but sorry, Jesus and Connor for... anonymous chatter, as a self-identified gooner, is apologizing to Jesus and me for P. Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein. You know what? On behalf of the anti-gooning community, I accept your apology, anonymous chatter.
Themselves Zionists, or consider that, or support the existence of a Jewish state, right? So she's attacking that, right? Not just the state of Israel, but that ideology that she believes has taken over her community. Right, so if German Americans were supporting Nazism, then yeah, it would make sense to say that they have a responsibility to condemn Nazism, right? If there was an issue with German Americans identifying as Nazis and supporting Hitler, then yes.
But,
right? but
here's a problem with what you just said, though, right? You mentioned that 90% or whatever percentage I think you used, I think it was 90%, support the existence of a Jewish state. That does not necessarily imply support for what Israel is doing, or even support for Israel where it's at and how it exists now, right? I can support a Jewish state and also say, well, I think Israel's an ethno-state. I think what they're doing is horrific, and they probably should be disbanded. You can believe both things. These are not contradictory. Again, she's doing this thing where she conflates that anyone who's even neutral towards Israel or even condemns it but doesn't praise the rapes and murders that have been engaged against it is a Zionist. She calls you a Zionist, Doobie.
Yeah, so I don't think that she believes that there were rapes and murders on October 7th. So I read some of her other work. It seems like she doesn't believe. She thinks that's like a bullshit narrative pushed by Israel, and I think there's some strong evidence that did happen. I do believe that there were rapes, of course, but I think it's also true that there were opportunists and liars who exploited that fact and exaggerated that fact to make money or to push like an anti-Palestinian narrative. So she doesn't believe that those things happened. I disagree with her. I think some of that did happen. I don't think there's like mass rapes, but absolutely some people were raped. Right?
I think Well, what would you call
looking at it from her,
someone? What would you
go ahead.
call someone who denied the Holocaust, who denied that Jews were being killed in camps in the Holocaust? What would you call that person?
I think there's far more evidence that the Holocaust happened than that there were like mass rapes on October 7th, which is the narrative that she's combating.
Okay. I think that you're correct technically that yes, there is more evidence on the Holocaust. Yes, that is true. But I think that there is compelling and damning evidence about what Hamas did on October 7th. There's video evidence that we have from multiple sources. Hamas videoed themselves doing these things. We have this evidence.
Sorry, this shit. This is why I wanted to do this content, because I knew it was gonna be funny as fuck. Oh my god. Hedonic Samuel for 5 says, as a man of German descent, this puts me in a pretty tight spot. Grassroots says, as chatters, we are collectively responsible for the sins of Doobie. And somebody requoted Martin Luther King, and they said, I have a dream, AK Batusai says, I have a dream that one day my children will be judged not by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. Dude, let's flip it. I have a dream that one day little black boys and little black girls will not be judged by the content of their character, but by their collective guilt as a people. It doesn't hit the same. I have a dream that one day Jews will be collectively held responsible for the sins of their people rather than looked at as individuals. I have a dream that one day white folk will be collectively held responsible for the sins of colonialism rather than the content of their character. Man, it just fucking hits different.
It's strong. The UN has come out with reports detailing this evidence, and we can quibble on some of the details here and there, but I think that someone who still denies that Hamas killed and raped people on October 7th, that in and of itself is anti-Semitic in a big way. Do you disagree?
Yeah, why?
Okay, so again,
using the definition that you brought up earlier.
Sure, I'm going to refer.
How is that anti-Semitic?
Yeah, I'm going to refer to the definition we used earlier, right? Like when you were denying atrocities against a group, in this case, the Jewish group, again, combine that with the saying they need to be punished for their actions. It's a way to hold them accountable and to deny any kind of there is no wrong you can do against that group. And if you do a wrong against that group, we're going to cover it up for you. We're going to deny that ever happened. It's anti-Semitic in nature. Do you not understand that?
No, I think
As a tech bro, I'm sorry for AI furry porn. My priest is getting real tired of me doing land acknowledgments at the beginning of every confession. I knew I was going to love this content. I knew I was going to love it. Oh my God.
you were pretending that she doesn't actually believe that these things didn't happen, and she's only saying that they didn't happen because she hates Jews. I think she actually doesn't believe they happened. And again, I think there's very strong evidence that at least the extreme claims of like mass rape on October 7th were not true. The beheaded babies thing, not true. Right, so it is true that there were lies floating around early on, and still today. There were people going around giving speeches to huge crowds of people that were later exposed to totally lied about their involvement and what they did and who they saved and all those kinds of shit. So I think it's totally reasonable to be suspicious of that narrative. And if she believes that the narrative is totally made up, either because she hasn't seen enough evidence or because she's seen evidence of people lying about this, I don't think it's anti-Semitic.
I do not think that she would accept any evidence. And the reason I don't think that is because I think she is anti-Semitic. And the reason I think she is anti-Semitic is because she's essentializing all Jews, holding them all responsible. She's praising Hamas, the glorious Al-Qasim brigade, right? And Hamas, to be clear, has called for the death of all Jews, right? All of them, right? Globally.
Hold on. That's not
I'll read
accurate.
you some quotes.
No, you're going to go back to like the 80s or something. But
from 2019?
Okay, yeah, read the one from 2019
Sure.
because I know that recently, I think even like before
You
and
7
after,
million Palestinians abroad.
really quickly.
No,
I think
I'm gonna
before
read the
and
quote,
after.
just
Well, let
real
me
quick.
finish my statement. I think before and after October 7th, there were like Hamas spokespeople saying that that their fight is not with Jews, it is with Israel. It is with the Zionist entity. Right,
Okay,
is
well,
they call
here's
it.
what Fatih Hamad, the senior Hamas official, said in 2019. He said, "You 7 million Palestinians abroad, there are Jews everywhere. We must attack every Jew on planet Earth." That's all of them, Doobie. We must
Okay.
slaughter and kill them with Allah's help. We will die while exploding and cutting the necks and legs off the Jews. We will lacerate them and tear them to pieces. Again, every Jew on planet Earth. It's fucking
I believe that-
anti-Semitic.
oh, God. Okay, I believe it wants to kill all Jews.
Yes.
I'm telling you that their official position before and after October 7th is that their fight is with Israel, not Jews.
Okay.
Like, that has been their stated position for fucking years. Again, before and after October 7th. I agree that this guy wants to kill all Jews. 100%.
That is their stated goal. Hamas's stated goal is to kill all the Jews.
Okay, that is this man's
They
stated
have
goal,
softened
not
some of
Hamas's
their
stated
official
goal.
language for propaganda purposes, but that is what they believe, and that is what they have said
That's not true.
over and over and over again.
Do
In
you
official
think Hamas just
publications,
wants to fight Israel
Hamas
because
leadership
they're
has said
Jewish?
this. I'm going to quote you another one from 2023. This is Ghazi Hamad, a Hamas political official, and he says vowed repeatedly to annihilate Israel and continue October 7th style attacks time and time again until Israel is annihilated. In 2012, Sheikh Ahmad Bar says, "Oh Allah, destroy the Jews and their supporters. Oh Allah, count them one by one and kill them all without leaving a single one." They're anti-Semitic, Doobie.
Wick, do you realize what you're doing right now? So we both
What am
know.
I doing right now?
I'm going to tell you.
Quoting Hamas.
We both know.
and its
Hold on.
officials.
We both know that if we were to just Google it, we would find countless quotes and speeches by Israeli government officials and Jewish leaders within Israel and here in the United States and politicians here in the United States openly advocating for the killing of all Palestinians. Right. So do you think it's like reasonable for me to say that because you support Israel, that means you're supporting a government that wants to kill all the Palestinians, and
No,
therefore you're
not,
a bigot.
I do not think
Then why are you applying a
that
double
is
standard?
reasonable because we have plenty of evidence that they haven't killed all Palestinians. However, we have evidence that Hamas, when they get the opportunity, will kill every single Jew that they can get their hands on. We have evidence of these things, right? And so again, like, I think that someone can support the idea of Israel and condemn the leadership of Israel. And I don't think that it's anti-Semitic to condemn Israel even, right? But we're not talking about just condemning Israel here. We're going further than that, and we're holding every Jew on earth responsible for Israel. And that's what makes this anti-Semitic.
Okay, Wick, I feel like your beliefs about Israel are clouding your thinking on this. Because to be clear, when people support Israel, right? So if a Jewish person says, "I support Israel," or you say, "I support Israel," you're not just supporting like a random ass nation somewhere on the planet. You're supporting a state that is actively committing ethnic cleansing, has been doing this for fucking decades now, by the way, is accused of genocide, very likely has committed genocide in Gaza, is a long history of human rights violations, rape, torture, murder of children, women, men that they've held in detention with no charges. They just passed a law, Wick, that allows them to kill specifically Palestinians, right? And not Jewish people, specifically Palestinians, death by hanging.
What kind of Palestinians?
Right? So you're
all
talking,
Palestinians? Hold on. No, let's talk about that law. What kind
let's
of
talk about the law.
Palestinians?
So Palestinians, they believe, have killed somebody.
Okay, so the death penalty for Palestinians. That is problematic, but you notice how you framed that?
Wick.
You notice how dishonest that framing was? That you said,
That
well, they're
wasn't
just going to
dishonest at
kill all
all.
Palestinians. The death
not what I
to
said.
Palestinians law, right?
That
That's
isn't
how
what
you
I said
phrased it.
either. I didn't say they want to kill all Palestinians or the death to Palestinians law.
You
just
said
made that up.
they passed a law allowing them to kill
That allows them to kill
Palestinians.
Palestinians, yes.
Yes, but that leaves out a lot of important context.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, allegedly, what's passed recently is the death penalty for Palestinians who do homicide in the name of terrorism, capital punishment, and I don't have a problem with that at all. However, I think it should be equally applied to Jews because I'm an American civic nationalist, right? I think that what should bind a people is a subscription to a set of ideals that bind them. And so, for instance, like if there's 20% of the population of the state of Israel that is Arab Muslim and they subscribe to the Arab Muslim whatever, Arab Muslim, they subscribe to the nation state of Israel, then they should have equal rights under the law. Likewise, if a Jew, let's say, something that Doobie brings up, he says that there's a popular politician, I don't know which one, who it is. Is it Ben Gvir? And Ben Gvir has like a portrait of like a Jewish mass shooter in his office or something. I don't know the context, but let's just accept that on its face value. Let's say that there was a Jewish terrorist who walked into a mosque and just blasted 30 civilians. That dude should be hung under the law, obviously, as well. And if Israel is failing to hold settlers and mass murderers and Jewish terrorists accountable, then that's obviously like a moral failing of Israel that the United States, as Israel's partner in the region, should leverage diplomatically to change. See, that's one of my frustrations with the claiming that Obama and Joe Biden are anti-Semitic because they didn't write Israel a blank check to do whatever the fuck it wanted. I don't think that's anti-Semitic at all. I actually agree with the people who say the United States is in a pretty, not unique, but in a pretty powerful, leveraged position with the state of Israel, considering the amount of technology we share, the amount of military industrial complex secrets that we share, the amount of joint operations we do, the amount of diplomatic friendliness that we have. We should be leveraging our reputation as a civic nationalist society to eliminate the legalistic and procedural injustices of the state of Israel. And I think it's a moral failing if we choose not to out of political convenience. Anonymous Chatter for 5 says, each group gets 1 day per month to walk naked through the streets apologizing while everyone else collectively chants shame. I mean, that might solve the problem, if we just adopted the penitent march from Game of Thrones. Maybe that'll solve our problems. If all the black people get like cat of nine tails, walking through the streets, whipping themselves for the collective sins of the black community, but then the next day, white people do the same, and then the next day, the Jews do the same, and then the next day, the Muslims do the same, and then the next day, the AI bros do the same. Maybe if we all walk through the street, whipping ourselves with a cat of nine tails for the collective sins of our people, then maybe that'll solve our social issues, right? Yeah, so. What if I want more than 1 day to do it? Listen, man, I know we've turned this into, and then the gooners who are gooning to everybody else flagellating themselves, they have to do a flagellant penitent walk as well. Or they're denied a flagellant penitent walk if they get off on it, right? Like if they're into it, they're prohibited from the flagellant penitent walk. Listen. I know we've turned this into a meme. I know we've fucked it up by joking about collective guilt in the ways that we would engage in collective guilt. But like, for me, is this not the logical extension? Because as liberals, in the classical sense, believing in universal freedom and freedom maximization as a society, we tend to universalize rules. So very rarely do we write a rule that doesn't apply to everybody, right? And so that's kind of where I think the liberal mindset is actually confused. It's befuddled by a law or a rule that only applies to a certain ethno-religious group, or a certain racial group, or a certain, maybe I would have said ethno-religious already, but we're like befuddled by it. We don't understand it. And I think that's good. I think our lack of understanding of laws written to punish a specific demographic group is good. and we should push that kind of mentality to our allies. So, like Saudi Arabia, for instance. Saudi Arabia has slavery the same way like Saudi, Dubai, UAE, Oman, all those Gulf states, they massively profit from like Malaysian pseudo slave labor. Like the Malaysians come over, work for less than minimum wage, are massively abused by their patrons, and then they're disposed of when they're no longer useful. They get very shitty wages, and their shitty wages, like 80% of their wages, they try to send back to their people, but oftentimes the same abuses that were common in the 19th century America, where you lived in company towns, where the company paid you a wage, but then they absorbed 90% of your wage for food and living costs. That is also common in like the Indonesian and Malaysian slave workforce of the Gulf states. And we should be leveraging our alliance with these Gulf states to get them to improve the conditions of these people who are effectively slaves. Obviously. And if we don't, it's a moral failing. Officer Nasty says, Connor, if we had a goon city that celebrated sexually abusing women and majority of the world's gooners supported that city existing, is it bad to ask gooners to denounce the city? No. No. But let's say that there was a mass shooter of gooners, right? Let's say that there was an anti-gooning terrorist. Let's call him Connor, okay? And so there was like a reviled anti-gooning terrorist that massacred people in the gooning city, right? And then a gooner who saw the evilness of the gooning city said, if you don't praise the mass shooter of gooners, then you are complicit in the sins of the gooning city. A mass gooner event, if you will. Wow. Fucking. Who was it? Was it Beef Supreme? Was it Officer Nasty? Was it somebody today was triggering the fuck out of me in the morning, and I was like, this is going to be a tough day. And then it's actually gotten really fucking funny. This day has gotten really funny and really fucked up. Ah, okay. Let's keep going.
Palestinians are in charge of the crime.
Something that is just not true.
Wait, do you think that law is okay?
No, I don't. I'm not
Okay,
supporting that
so
law.
why?
But when we criticize something, it's important we be accurate how we criticize something.
I agree.
And therefore, when you
Wick,
leave
but
out
also when you
important
support something,
context
Wick,
to your criticism,
Wick, when you support something,
it feels
oh, God.
dishonest.
Wick, when you support something, I think it's important to be specific about what you're supporting. And you and other people who support the existence of Israel in its current form, or believe in or support Zionism, are supporting a nation that is.
Officer Nasty says, I'm too sad because of my dog to be mad, lol. I think I saw it earlier. Your dog has cancer, has to go through hardcore treatment. It's going to be tough, and he might pass. I am sorry for that. Obviously, Grassroots is going through a similar thing. I've gone through similar things in the past. Unfortunately, the white dog that you guys see in the background, he's 13. I don't know how long he's going to live, but he's probably got a year or two left. So you're going through something tough, Officer Nasty, but you're not alone. You're not alone. It's a tough thing, but you'll get through it. I promise.
Doing all the evils that I just laid out, right? And continue to do more evil, and not just in Gaza or the West Bank, but also in southern Lebanon right now, where they're openly ethnically cleansing the Shia Muslims. Where they're telling Christian and Druze leaders that to kick the Shia Muslims out of their community.
Because you
supporting
support
that
Palestine.
State. So
does that mean you
God.
support
Wait, just real
October
quickly.
7th?
No, obviously not.
So, because I support Israel, even though I don't, right? I just don't want to see it wiped off the face of the earth, right? Because I support Israel under that framing does not mean I support every
Israel?
single law they pass or what they do in Gaza.
What do you mean you support Israel? Like, what does that mean?
I think that the people of Israel have the right to self-determination and should have the right to self-determination, and that they shouldn't be forcibly excised from the area, nor should they be killed. I think Israel has a
Okay.
right, quote unquote, to exist. I don't like what it's doing in Gaza. I condemn it. I don't like how it's conducted itself during this war. I don't like how it's conducted itself prior to the war in many cases. But this isn't a conversation about what I support or don't support about Israel. This is a conversation where we are wondering if someone who, again, has no support for Israel, has no connection to Israel, who happens to be Jewish in California, has any responsibility for what Israel does or does not do. This article says that they do bear responsibility and that they are Zionists and that they have a target on their back. Okay? I condemn that language. It's essentializing. It's putting the responsibility for something someone did across the globe on someone who has no connection and no, they have no say in this, right? They have no responsibility here. They should not be condemned for it.
That's
They are
not
not
true.
guilty. They have not done anything.
Okay, but this isn't true because she explicitly lays out a way to escape this criticism, Wick. And that is
What is that way?
commit to anti-Zionism and to fight anti-Zionism with your full chest, right? Not just be tepid about it, but to attack the institution of Zionism within the Jewish community.
We can
right?
read
to,
what she
to,
says.
to attack,
I can quote it.
go for it.
So, genuine Jewish anti-Zionists unwaveringly support the total eradication of Israel and the greater Satan, America, the full land back without a speck of Zionist or Euro-American imperialist settler colonial control. This includes Jews supporting removing fellow Jews from Palestine while ensuring they don't do harm where they go further displace indigenous peoples elsewhere. So not only is she saying that unless you want to destroy Israel, destroy America, ethnically cleanse the Jews from Palestine, which by she means all of Israel, right? Gaza, West Bank, and Israel proper, right?
Stepped on Unity says that wiped off the face of the earth line is so silly it's painfully bad faith straw man garbage. You must have not been here for when we read the article. That's what the author wants. She wants all the Jews, okay, Ashkenazi, Maghrebi, Mizrahi, Ethiopian. She wants all of them to pick up sticks, right? Sell their houses to Palestinians, or don't even sell their houses to Palestinians. Literally gift the houses to the Palestinians and then leave. All the Ashkenazi go back to Europe. All the Mizrahi. Let's pull up the ethnos group real quick because you're saying it's a straw man, but it's literally in the different Jewish ethnic groups. So all the Ashkenazi would have to go back to Eastern Europe. All the Sephardics would have to go back to Iberia and North Africa. All the Mizrahi would have to go back to the Middle East. And all the Ethiopians would have to go back to Ethiopia. Right? So, no, it's not a straw man. It's literally what she wanted. And then what she also wants, because she's a land-back leftist, is she wants Americans, such as myself, to literally sell all my shit and move back to Ireland. Right? She's a land back leftist. So, yeah. Sorry, like you're like, it's a straw man. It's like, no, that's the argument. That's the argument. She wants the settler colonial nation state of Israel to no longer exist. So, sorry, it's not a straw man if it's just true.
And that these Jews are so dangerous that you have to be careful where you put them because they're going to just do it again because Jews are like that, right? That's what she's saying.
She doesn't say Jews are like that.
That is
So
obviously the
implication
implication
here-
of the statement.
No, the implication is that if they leave the area, she doesn't want there to be a new Israel made, right? A new ethno state imposed on some other group of people, right? That is what she's saying. She's not saying that Jews just do this to people. She's saying our community has adopted and latched onto, I think she said that the ideology has latched onto the community, and we are not doing enough to fight this ideology, which is toxic and poisonous and genocidal and racist. And she thinks that every Jew has a responsibility to fight this thing. And if you do fight this thing, she's your ally. She's Jewish.
Hold on, though. Hold on. Grassroots says, ironically, this would make me leave all of my money and property to Puerto Rico for colonizing it. Well, dude, okay. But if you're I think the Puerto Ricans killed all the indigenous people in Puerto Rico. I don't think they kept a lot of them around. I think they actually like genocided the few people that were there. So Puerto Rico, you would leave all of your territory, all of your property in Puerto Rico, but then you would return to Spain if you're Hispanic. So Anonymous for 5 says, fuck it. Let's just do split custody, universal basic jail atonement. Whites get Monday, Tuesday. Jews get Wednesday, Thursday. Minorities can alternate weekends. Well, that feels unfair to the minorities. Feels like all the other minorities don't get enough time. Feels like you're being white and Jewish supremacist, even in your atonement. Wasn't that Haiti? I don't know, man. Dominicans are pretty mixed. Haitians are pretty black. I feel like the Haitians were just like French people who did kind of, but not often mix with the black people. And then black people that were imported as slaves. And then I think the Dominicans are actually pretty mixed between indigenous Spanish and black slaves. And then I think Puerto Ricans are like they're majority Spaniard, like pure blood Spaniards. But I could Google it real quick. Did Puerto Rico, what would you say? Did Puerto Rico genocide the natives? Spanish colonizers beginning in the late 15th century committed acts of violence, enslavement, and systemic destruction that decimated the indigenous Taino population in Puerto Rico. While often termed a genocide, many scholars emphasize that European diseases, brutal labor, and intermarriage led to a rapid population collapse rather than total and immediate extinction. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe the Taino people are still kind of around. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I just fucking work here, man. I don't know. I just work here.
I'm sure she doesn't think that she is unsalvageable and she just needs to be killed or whatever the fuck. She believes that there are other Jews like her who are already fighting this evil. Right. And she is calling on all Jews to fight this evil. And the way that a Christian pastor might call on all Christians to fight Christian nationalism, or a German leader might call on all Germans to fight Nazism. It's the ideology she's attacking. And she believes
I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
This ideology is dominating her community and every institution in her community.
But the way she is attacking the ideology is to demand that people who are unconnected to that ideology, who have no responsibility for that ideology, be held responsible.
Hold on. Can I ask you guys real quick? As a matter of fact, I'm not going to ask. I'm going to say fuck Christian Valaris. I know, and I love you, Christian Valaris. Sorry for saying fuck you. I know for a fact that wicks out at the end. Okay? So I want to find the thing that Doobie ostensibly lies about, because Wick accuses him of lying, and then he kicks Doobie off of the show. So I'm going to fast forward to the last 10, 15 minutes of the conversation, and I'm going to let it flow from there. Amplifax says Hispanics are mestizo. Not every Hispanic is mestizo, right? Not every Hispanic is mestizo. There's an entire Hispanic mix racial caste system. The casta. Basic mixed race categories. So if you look at the casta, there's the Español con India, which is mestizo. There's mestizo con Español, which is a castizo. There's the castizo con Español, which I guess is called an Español. Español con mera, mulatto. Mulatto con Española, morisco. Morisco con Española is a China. China con India is a Salta Ajas. Salta Abbas con mulatto is a Lioja. Dude, there's an entire racial caste system for the brownness of Hispanics. And I actually think this is hilarious because white people were not this fucking smart. We didn't like create a 4, 8, 12, 16. We didn't invent 16 fucking words for mixed people. You know? We just fucking, you're either mixed or you're not, right? You could be black and you could be mixed while you're black. But the truth is that if you're a little swarthy and you have African features, you're going to be called black, right? Then if you're white, you have to be some kind of European, right? Some kind of European, although weirdly enough, Mediterranean Europeans are often olive colored, right? They're often olive skinned. And then if you're Hispanic, you're presumed to be brown, but then realistically, there's a shitload of white Hispanics and there's a shitload of black Hispanics. So we're actually like pretty racist against Hispanics because we presume that they're all brown, but the Hispanics have like 16 different categories of like different mixes, you know? The Northern European whites, we just fucking genocided our Native Americans, and then we were like, fuck it, this is ours now, right? Black. I do hit the black super hard. I think it's funny. I think I gain some credit with the black community by, you know, understanding systemic racism, like actually having hung out with black people before, actually having black friends and all that kind of stuff. I think I get a little bit of credit, but then I think I get a little bit of even more credit because I hit black super hard and it sounds racist as fuck. But if you hear what I'm saying, it's typically pretty liberal or even progressive. So it sounds like I'm being racist as fuck. But normally I'm like, the blacks are suffering disproportionate discrimination in the criminal justice system. So it sounds like I'm being racist, but I'm actually not. Somebody said mulatto butts, right? And I think that that's a song that Archer has on his cell phone as a ringtone. And I kind of want to play it for you real quick. Here we go. Let's fucking go. All right. I'm going to go use the restroom. I'll be right back.
An ethno-state for freed slaves while being ignorant of Liberia is exemplary of his deep ignorance on these.
Well, that person's also retarded because, of course, I know about Liberia, and this was one of the three options that they tested after slavery, right? Obviously, well, it wasn't. It was like it was tested during slavery. It was either we keep them enslaved, we keep the boot on their neck, so that they don't rise up and kill us, which is, I think, what Israel is currently choosing, or we'll set them free and risk them murdering us all, or we send them somewhere else, just get rid of them because there's too many of them here. I think some of these states, if you put this into context, were, like at the height of slavery, had like 40 or 50% slave population. Like if the entire, like half of the population was slaves.
I just
So
say
these people are very afraid.
It's crazy
that
to
these people
compare Israel and Palestine to slavery in the 1860s or the 1850s.
No, that's-
It just these are
Why?
wildly not the same thing.
Would you compare it to
Palestinians
South
may be
Africa?
oppressed, but they ain't slaves, bro.
Hold on. Would you compare it to South Africa, Wick? Because they obviously
that is a
there
better
an ethnic,
comparison.
There's an
It's not
ethnic
the
hierarchy
same,
and legal
though.
structure.
There are
Why?
fundamentally differences because the apartheid that was in South Africa was far more oppressive. The people, the
That's not
Arabs
true.
who are Israeli citizens, may
absolutely
have
not
some
true.
rights that are different. May not have some rights that they probably should have. I'll agree with you there, but it's a fundamentally different
Why are you so weak about that?
thing.
Why do you say, oh, they may not have some rights that they probably should
Because
have?
it's not as strong as the apartheid was in South Africa.
No, hold on. When
It
you
is
talk
a
about
much
Israel,
weaker
when you say
quote-unquote
may
apartheid.
not
It
have some
just
rights that
is.
they
It's just
probably should
true.
have, obviously this implies that you think maybe there's a chance that they shouldn't have these rights. Right? So if you do think they should
I
have
just
these rights,
said
why
that they
why do you
should
use
have
weak
those
language?
rights, but it's
no,
not like.
you said probably should have.
Hold on.
Wick.
Do you
soften
think
your language
it's
when
the
it comes to Israel.
same, right? Do you think it's the same that if someone cuts you off in traffic versus someone blowing up your car, These are both things that I don't want to happen to me. But if I had to rate them on a scale, getting cut off in traffic, while bad, is far, far less bad than having my car blown up. For whatever reason, you guys don't understand scale.
No, I think you're minimizing the fucking horrors that Palestinians have had to deal with in Israel, right? So if you think that what they've had to deal with is not as bad as
Israeli citizens who are Arab, that's what I'm talking about specifically.
Well, hold on, Wick. To be clear, if you think that what's been happening in Gaza and the West Bank for fucking decades now is not comparable or is not as bad or worse actually than what was happening in South Africa during apartheid, you're crazy. You're just not read up enough. You're not informed. You need to do some fucking research.
You understand that first. Well, do you think it was as bad as antebellum or like 1800 slavery in America?
No.
Do you think that okay?
No, but hold on, but what you'd be comparing
there is like ethnic.
Doobie?
Well, why are you minimizing it? You're saying something else was worse?
It was also not as bad as the Holocaust, Wick. Also not as bad as the Holocaust. But that doesn't mean that it isn't an ethnic hierarchy that should be called out. And if I were to talk about the fucking antebellum South, I wouldn't say, oh, maybe these Africans don't have some rights that they probably should have. I would say they absolutely should have these rights. And it's fucking racist and unacceptable not to give them these rights. But when you talk about Israel, you soften your language. You say, oh, well, maybe they shouldn't have these rights, or maybe they probably should have these rights. When there shouldn't be a fucking question, Wick. Why is there a question?
Arabs who are citizens of Israel have held positions of power within
That doesn't mean
Israel.
they have the same rights.
The
that doesn't mean they have the same rights.
Differences between the rights that they have are small.
Not true.
Okay. What's the biggest difference?
They don't have the right to self-determination.
They can vote.
They don't have the right to self-determination, Wick. In fact,
hold on,
I think
you hold on. You don't.
Wick, I think you supported this actually.
Do you
Wick.
think
I think when
that
you guys were talking
Arab
the other day,
Israeli cannot vote?
That's not self-determination. That's not
that is
national
self-determination.
So Christian Blair says, are we moving on to Kalinda versus Lactoid or Live and Learn? No, we're not. Unfortunate. So what's going on is I want to see the crash out, and realistically, it's going to take us a minute to get to the crash out because I think we're currently at 134. Doobie gets kicked off at 143, 144. So we got about 10 minutes left of content. And you know me, I like to pause and yap. So we're probably not getting to it. But we're going to finish this. Maybe we'll do a little bit of secular church. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a rhino if I'm feeling like it. But unfortunately, I do have to leave today at 1:30 because it's early day and I'm picking up the kids. So have we really been doing Doobie Cancer for 2 hours? We sure have, but we've had a lot of fun, Arthur. If you actually haven't watched the VOD, I think or if you haven't watched the entire stream or whatever, it's actually really fucking funny. Because effectively what we do, or at least what I did, and chat played along with me, so I think we had a good time, is we accepted Doobie's collective guilt argument, and then we started applying it, like, to everything. We started applying it to black people. We started applying it to Jews. We started applying it to white people. We started applying it to Hispanics. And it just became, like, increasingly funny as we were, as we were, like, fucking with different groups with collective guilt. I thought it was super funny. Patriarch was like, no, we haven't been playing along. I thought it was great. I was having fun. I don't know what chat. I was having a good time. Okay. I was having a great time. So yeah, the Gooner hypothetical. Will I condemn a Gooner shooting? An anti-Gooner shooting. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I had a great time. Apparently Vazraka had a great time. Vazraka gifted another membership. So, yeah. Conservative liberalism says everybody but me had a blast. I'm sorry, conservative liberalism. You win some and you lose some. All right. Hold on. Let's get to the crash out, and then we'll figure out what we're doing. But I do want to do Kalinda and Lactoid soon, because I want to be able to talk to Kalinda about it. And then I do want to do Live and Learn, because obviously, like, Live and Learn crash outs are oftentimes algorithmically best within a day or two of them happening. And then after, like, a week, nobody gives a shit. but when they happen, a lot of people really think it's funny. So realistically, if I was being like a pure algorithmic demon, I should do Live and Learn tomorrow, and then I should do Kalinda on Friday. And shit, maybe that's what we'll do. But that's the content that I want to do this week. So, yeah. Conserve says, I didn't know my points were ignored. I'm going to make my own schizophrenic mind map if you aren't careful. Please do, Conserve Liberalism. Go ahead. I would love to see a community schizophrenic mind map. Yeah. Crusader says, just do the Live and Learn crash out. I know, but I'm friendly with Lactoid and I'm friendly with Kalinda. And there's community members who are Kalinders. They like Kalinda. They like her history autistic rants. And they like my history autistic rants. So I wouldn't mind. I would love to watch it. And then kind of give feedback and all that kind of shit. But anyways, please not Live and Learn. Patriarch, I'm sorry, but you're probably going to have to suffer tomorrow or Friday. Either Thursday or Friday. You're going to have to suffer one of those days. I'm tired, boss. Suffer. Suffer. AK Batusai with the 10s is always fun to hear Archer's ringtone. Well, I live to serve. Let's try to get to the crash out, though.
As
No,
we
it is
understand
not,
it.
Wick. No, it is not. Could you think that Israel would allow for
Hold on,
Arabs?
because I am
for,
a minority
let me
party in my
answer the
country.
question.
Do I not have
Let
self-determination?
me answer the question. Let me answer the
Because
question, Wick.
I'm a
Do you think
minority
they
party in my
okay,
country.
Wick,
Do I not have self-determination?
Wick, do you think that Israel would allow for Arabs to vote for Israel not to be an ethno state anymore?
They can vote for it, but they wouldn't have the votes for it.
Hold on. If they had the votes for it, do you think that this would be allowed?
Probably not, for the reasons I outlined earlier.
And you support, and I think when you were on that panel the other day, right? I made the mistake of like tuning in for a bit while Connor was watching it. I think it was Connor, might have been Kalinda. And you were supporting like ethnic-based like immigration laws and deportation if it were the case that the Jewish supermajority were being challenged in Israel. That is like fucking crazy, Wick. Like so white nationalists say all the time that hey, if we let more black people into the country, look at the black crime rate. It's like up to 90%. It's
a hypothetical.
No,
that would I allow
you're supporting it, Wick. You're using to justify your position, Wick.
Who specifically wanted to kill me or remove me from my home? Wick. If I could set up a system of laws to stop that, would I? Yes.
Okay, Wick, you're doing it again. You're implying that it's reasonable to believe, to have the prejudiced belief that if we just let the Arabs in, they're going to kill all the Jews. That is not reasonable.
I will read
it to
you again.
You're going to do.
I think it's super reasonable. Maybe am I crazy? Am I crazy? I don't know if I'm crazy or not. I feel like October 7, 2023 kind of like proved that there was a militant wing of Arab Muslims in the surrounding area that would kill them. I think that's true of Hamas and Hezbollah. Also, hasn't it happened in 56, 67, 73, 2005? Haven't they haven't Arab Muslim nations, not 2005, that was obviously the Intifada, but in 48, 56, 67, and 73, didn't like fellow Arab Muslim nations that were bordering Israel invade in an attempt to destroy the nation state of Israel? What the fuck? Am I crazy? Because I think what would actually happen is that maybe if they were professional militaries, let's say that 6 to 7 of them, yeah. Let's say they were professional militaries. Let's say that for some reason Israel doesn't have nukes anymore. They don't have tactical nukes. And so Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia unify in order to take out the nation state of Israel. And so they're obviously going to wipe out the IDF. Anybody who's wearing an IDF uniform, anybody who's defending their country with small arms, anybody who's defending their country at all, those people are getting fucking killed, right? Then, of course, with undisciplined militaries, but also even the American military, there's going to be collateral damage. There's going to be civilian death. There's also going to be rape and murder. And then a healthy chunk of these Arab Muslim nations pay lip service to Islamism including their religion in the structure of their government. And the religion of Islam dictates that people of the book are capable of being citizens of the nation, but they're second-class citizens. And they have to pay a special tax. And they don't have as many rights and privileges as Muslims. So why is it unreasonable to believe that if the Arab Muslim nations, if Hezbollah and Hamas were capable of getting what they wanted, they would at minimum wipe out the security establishment? They would absolutely cause a shitload of collateral damage. There probably would be a shitload of rapes and murders. And then Jews and Israelis, if they weren't substantially killed, they would be relegated to second-class citizen status under the thumb of a Palestinian state that paid lip service to Islamism. Why is that an unreasonable belief based off of the history of the region over the past century? So, what? Am I crazy? Molly says you don't have to argue it would be a genocide. You could argue it would be a giant civil conflict, which would end up with hundreds of thousands of deaths, like the Indian partition. Right, and isn't that bad enough? Isn't that bad enough to not want? Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm crazy. I guess that's what crazy people think. Crazy people oftentimes don't feel crazy. I don't think I'm crazy. Old School says, has Doobie started screaming Juden verboten yet? No, we haven't gotten there yet, Old School. We're working on it. Verboten! Juden verboten! Shit, if I was a Jew and I heard that shit, that might send chills down my spine. My apologies to my Jews.
Where you read
I'm going to read it to you again.
Specific people
there are Jews everywhere. We must attack every Jew on planet Earth.
That's a single guy.
We must slaughter and kill them with Allah's help. We will die while exploding and cutting the necks and legs of the Jews. We will lacerate them and tear them to pieces. And this isn't a minority opinion. This is from the government.
You don't know that.
Of
okay, again, Wick, would it be reasonable to say that Jews cannot have power, cannot be trusted with power in that region because of Ben Gvir?
She says that in the article. Is that anti-Semitic to say?
Wick, I'm asking you, would it be reasonable to say that Jews cannot have power in that region of the world because of Ben Gvir?
Would it be... Well, that's what you're saying, aren't you?
No, you're saying.
So you're okay with Israel having power?
No,
and the reason, yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you think you're doing right now. You're not. You have. This isn't a gotcha. You're failing right now. You said you're supporting an ethno state, but also potentially ethnic-based race immigration laws and deportation laws
because of the pattern of behavior in that region.
Based on the statements of specific individuals, Wick. So if I were to look at Ben Gvir,
governments.
Hold on. Yeah, governments. If I were to look at the actions of the Israeli government for fucking decades now, if I were to look at the actions and the words,
it would be okay to oppose that.
No,
yes.
Listen, Wick.
You wouldn't be anti-Semitic for opposing that, would you?
The actions and the words.
Conservatism says Wick is saying that if the government holds a position that it's automatically a minority position, despite Hamas not holding elections. Noted. Okay. So, Patriarch says my German is a little rusty. Verboten just means forbidden. So Juden verboten would just be the Jews are forbidden. It would be like it'd be like a sign outside a store in Germany saying that if you were Jewish, you were not allowed to patronize the establishment. That's what Juden verboten would be. So Old School was saying that Doobie is going to start screaming that Jews are forbidden in German momentarily. I don't know that that's not going to happen. But Conserve says Wick is... So I want to address that Hamas thing. So I'm pretty sure Hamas got 60% of the vote in the 2000s, like 2005, 2006. Then any attempt to reinstitute democratic elections and or protest and or fight Hamas has resulted in slaughter. So, like, obviously I'm not trying to say, like, you can hold all Palestinians accountable for the opinions of Hamas. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, like, if they were that unpopular, then there should be like a mass uprising against them. And the few small uprisings have occurred have resulted in horrific repression. So I don't, what the fuck am I supposed to make of that,
words of Israeli politicians for decades now. If I were to look at that and say, hey, well, absolutely, Jews cannot have power in this side of the world. We can't trust Jews to be a majority here. So we need to get the Jews out of power. You'd call me a fucking bigot, right? Because that would actually be saying that all Jews are responsible for the actions of Ben-Gvir. I don't think that. I don't think that you think that. But you're applying that to Palestinians. You're saying that because like this guy in Hamas said this, well, if we let Palestinians in, of course they're all going to kill the Jews.
Well, the last time they let Palestinians in, they killed the Jews.
Wick.
The last time they let Palestinians in, October 7th, they killed the Jews.
You're fucking ridiculous, Wick.
Hold on, that's just true.
Hamas, Wick.
The last time that they let the Palestinians into Israel, they went on a spree and killed as many as they could.
Okay, so again, this would justify, from your position, from your perspective, kicking the Jews out of Israel, kicking them out of all the West Bank territories, not allowing them in the region, because the last time they went there, they ethnically cleansed people, they committed a genocide, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what you think happened?
That's what you think, Wick. That's what you think. Because otherwise you're applying a double standard, Wick.
I'm not
so
applying
if you're
going to
say
standard.
That it's reasonable to say that we can't allow the Palestinians in.
If Israel did not exist in that region,
this.
we can have a discussion of whether or not they should, but they do. And there are millions of Jews and Israel Arabs who live in that region, right? Who exist now. So the question becomes, what do we do with reality
But the Palestinians
now?
are also
We
there,
have to look at the actions in the past of these individuals, these governments, right? And we have to say, well, what's the most likely case scenario if they lose their majority, right? What is likely to happen? And I think it is just true, and you can call it whatever you like, but it's just true to say that that's what is likely to happen based on the statements given by government officials,
by this dude,
organization officials within that area, and not only that, but the actions of those in the area.
Of a tiny
I don't
minority.
support
Of a tiny
the
minority,
government of Israel. They have absolutely behaved in atrocious ways. And if I could snap my fingers and make everything good, I would remove them from power. Absolutely. And I would make sure that they would never hold power again. Right? That's what I would do. But I can't do that. So we have to ask, what is better? In what context, right, should we, or how should we behave in this context that we find ourselves in?
You're just attempting to justify your ethnic prejudice when it's not working, right? So, again, from your...
Hey, Doobie. So we have been watching this for like an hour or two, and we did have a pretty funny conversation earlier where effectively we took the collective guilt arguments and applied it to a shitload of different groups, and we had a pretty good time doing it. We fast forwarded to try to see Wick it out and see what we could get out of that. So we haven't gotten to the most... Sorry, I muted myself. We haven't gotten to the most contentious bit yet.
Trying to justify anti-Semitism, and it's not working.
No, I'm not.
You're getting destroyed. I'll just read you the stats. Like, you can posture all you want, but 74% of people thought you were fucking stupid.
I don't give a fuck. Most Americans are stupid.
Exactly. Right? You don't give a fuck. But that's okay.
Most people are stupid, Wick.
That's just what the stats say, though.
I'm sorry
to
break
it to you. Polls say.
Most people are
dumb. For whatever reason,
you
give a fuck about stats when 90% of Jews think the existence of a Jewish state, that stat matters.
What are you talking about?
But this stat doesn't?
Wick.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, let me read these.
No, hold on. Wick, you're trying to dodge, Wick. It's so embarrassing.
Just hold $10.
So can you tell me again why you think it's reasonable? Because how many Palestinians do you think participated on October 7th? Like a few thousand?
I'm not sure.
And you're going to say that because a few thousand of them did this, and because like 30 to 40,000 were in Hamas, that millions of them cannot
do you
be
know
allowed
what
to
the
go
second
into Israel?
Intifada was?
Okay, Wick,
you know what the first Intifada was?
I needed to engage, Wick. I needed to engage with this. So you're telling me again, your position is.
Do you understand
please
the
just
Israel
engage with what I'm saying.
Arab War?
Engage with what I'm saying, please.
Do you understand?
I know you don't like Arabs. Engage with what I'm saying.
I am engaging with what you're saying.
No, you're not.
I am absolutely. You're saying you're trying to pick a specific moment in time, and I'm saying that this has happened throughout the existence of the state of Israel. Arabs have continuously tried to kill them.
Yeah, Arabs.
Yes, these Arabs in this region. Not all Arabs globally. And I would never hold those who didn't try to do that responsible for those who did.
If I were talking about Israel, and I'm talking about like IDF soldiers, for example, that have raped people, would it be okay for me to say that Jews would rape Palestinians? Jews rape people?
Of course not.
Okay, well then why are you okay with doing that to Palestinians?
I'm not. I specifically said that's not the case.
No, you did.
Bellrunner says, in good faith, check out this YouTube channel. Bruh. We're trying to wick out over here, and you're trying to get me to fucking check out a YouTube channel. Let me... Corey Gill Schuster. All right, well, let's check that out later.
You said Arabs in this region. So Jews in this region have ethnically cleansed people, genocided people, raped people,
Hold on.
tortured people.
Yes, that would be okay to say because it's true. But the difference
so I can see the Jews
is
did
you and this article, well, I'll say this article is saying that all Jews, right? Everywhere, globally. That's the difference.
So,
you
really
just
quickly.
are pretending not to understand.
No,
you
I'm
are
not.
pretending
Okay,
not to understand.
I've gone over that for you like over and over
I know,
again.
but
Talking specifically
you've glossed
about
over
an ideology.
it. You haven't ever
you're not even
addressed
talking
it.
about an ideology.
You've been shown to be a hypocrite on this. You've been shown that you would never accept this in other situations, but you do accept it for Jewish people for
I gave you
whatever
multiple
reason.
situations.
This is
Why are you
what's been
lying?
shown.
No, hold on. Now you're just lying, Wick.
I'm not
Because
lying. We did it with
hold on, Wick.
Palestinians. Would it be
Wick,
okay? I'll just
no,
ask you.
hold on, Wick,
Would you?
no.
We only have 90 seconds left, but I'm actually borderline confused about the wick out. I kind of am. Because, well, Doobie, we read a substantial amount of the article earlier, and I do think it gets kind of extreme. So hold on, let me lay out the argumentation as I understand it, so maybe Doobie could enlighten us since he's in chat a little bit. So, what the article says is that 90% of Jews are some form of Zionist. You know, they support the existence of the nation state of Israel. Even if they don't like it expanding its borders, even if they're critics of the ethnic cleansing in southern Lebanon and Gaza and the West Bank and war crimes and all that kind of stuff, they still think the nation state of Israel should exist, and that pulls at like 90%. Okay? Then out of the remaining 10% who even identify as anti-Zionist, a shitload of them are quote-unquote liberal anti-Zionists. So they say, oh, Israel bad, but it still needs to exist. We just need a two-state solution, blah, 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 blah. And what she's saying is that's insufficient. If you look at the crimes of the nation state of Israel in its establishment and the past century, then effectively you need to be completely against the existence of the nation state of Israel, and you effectively need to advocate for its dissolution. Everybody needs to go back to where they came from. So the Ashkenazi need to go back to Europe. The Maghrebi, the Mizrahi, the whoever, they all need to go back to their separate regions and live in peace amongst other people. Then Americans, realistically, I think it's implied in the article, should do the same as well. And then not just that, but we should understand October 7, 2023, and we should understand the terrorist attacks that happened that day and the rapes and the murders, even if she doesn't believe in the rape. Those were all decolonial, anti-colonial struggles and are therefore should be blessed and revered in our cultural zeitgeist. And if you do not bless and revere these terrorist attacks, then you're not a sufficiently pure anti-Zionist fucking person, right? And I think that's dumb as fuck. I really do think that's dumb as fuck. And I analogized it to holding black people collectively responsible for the sins of the criminal subculture in the black community, blah, 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 blah. And then we hone that argument a little bit more. So I don't like the collective guilt argument, but I have not seen Doobie, to your credit, I have not seen Doobie contradict himself where he says the collective guilt argument that is currently being applied to Jews in this article has been used in the past against whites. It has been used against Muslims. And I thought that you would say that it was Islamophobic. But hold on. Actually, Z from Unfuck America is calling me. Give me 1 second. Sorry, just wanted to make sure it wasn't anything serious. Doobie for 20 bucks says, I gave him multiple groups that collective standard are responsible for has been applied to: Catholics, Muslims, women, men, Africans, Germans. And he kept claiming I'm only applying it to the standard to Jews. Correct. Although I am surprised that you would apply a collective standard to Muslims, because you've accused me of Islamophobia in the past. But that's okay. We could try to figure it out. And then Doobie says for 10, and then I pointed out that he's applying an even more extreme collective guilt standard to Palestinians to justify keeping them at the bottom of an ethnic hierarchy, and he started freaking out. Okay. I mean, that's a decent context. So let's let it flow. We only got 2 minutes of psychic damage left to go. Let's see what happens.
Consider it bigoted for me to go to a university in America or a campus to find a Palestinian person who has no connection to Hamas, no connection to Hezbollah or anything like that, and hold them responsible and for the actions of Hamas. You would obviously call that bigoted.
Like, do you remember me bringing up Germans after World War II, Catholics, white people, men, Muslims? Do you remember all those examples I brought up of me saying that this exact kind of thing? Wait, hold on. Yes, actually, Wick. Yes, for Palestinians.
Again, answer my question, please.
Wick,
answer my question. You can just answer my question. Would it be bigoted for me to go to Dearborn, Michigan, to a campus, anywhere in America, find a Palestinian guy who has no connection?
Why do you do
this?
When you start losing, you like just start talking about people.
Hey, you are responsible and should be held responsible.
Doobie, I wouldn't even mind calling for a second on this, just because of Wick's example. I'm actually kind of surprised that you're applying it this way. I do think it would be bigoted for me to. So we have Ali, right? Ali's a guy in the community, and Ali says, "Oh, it's Islamophobic to hold everybody collectively responsible for jihadist terrorism." I'm surprised that you would say, No. You can ask Ali to pressure his community to be less sympathetic to jihadism, and that's not bigoted. I'm surprised that would be your perspective.
Responsible for the actions of Hamas. You would call that
extremely
bigoted.
Transparent, Wick. So when you're losing an argument, you just start talking over people.
So you won't answer the question?
I'm trying to address it right now, actually, but I need you to stop interrupting me. Right, so if we need to bring in like Lactoid or something to moderate, that'd be totally fine. But you got to stop interrupting when I'm trying to answer your question. Right, so the reason I brought up all those other examples, Wick, was to show you that I'm not applying a double standard. I'm applying the same fucking standard, which is the same standard that she's applying, which is Catholics, Muslims, Jews, men, women, etc. All these groups have some responsibility to call out toxic behavior within their own community, 100%. And again, intercommunal criticism is totally normal, totally accepted. I accept all of that, but you keep saying that I'm only okay with it for Jews, and this is a lie. Because I've said this to you repeatedly.
I wanted to be clear, you motherfucking liar, that you didn't answer my question. I asked you a specific question, and you obfuscated. You went on this rant that wasn't connected. You didn't answer my fucking yes or no question, Doobie. You are a fucking liar. You're just a fucking liar. You can go away now. Bye. I asked you a very specific question. I interrupted you because you weren't answering that question. You continued to assure me that you were about to answer that question, and then you fucking lied to my fucking face. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Go fucking hate you somewhere else. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. That's insanity. I don't understand why anyone takes this motherfucker seriously. And he wonders why no one believes him when he accuses other people of doing things, right? He wonders why his campaign of terror against other groups and other streamers and other people, right, just don't work. It's because he's a fucking liar. No one trusts him. His credibility is shot. Let me continue to read the super chats.
So he wicked the fuck out. We were waiting for it. He wicked out. He wicked super hard. Now, I'm going to ask Doobie the same question, but I'm also going to entertain, if Doobie has a hypothetical, I'm going to answer it very straightforward. So, Doobie, I think your campaign of terror is the anti-DGG psychological operation that you're engaging in across multiple platforms to terrorize Destiny and to terrorize DGG. The first and second empanada. Yeah, my Wicca. Okay, so hold on. So I summarized the article earlier. I do want to pick Doobie's brain about the collective guilt argument. And then I kind of want to... Yeah. I'm just going to articulate it to Doobie. It's probably easier. We could probably have this conversation in a lot faster of a time to at least understand each other, if not agree with each other. So let me call Doobsters real quick. And I'll pop them out and go into the debate. Doobie!
1 second. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to turn you up a little bit. Try again.
Is that better?
Yes. So, much like the Jews, you're traveling around various places, causing trouble wherever you go. So, what do you have to say for yourself?
I think Wick's a bitch, but I already knew this. It's fine. I think he's totally unprincipled. His liberal thing is a costume. It's not real. Totally drops all his principles whenever something inconvenient comes up.
Okay.
But again, we already knew this.
Yeah, so hold on. So I want to understand your perspective, and I'm going to try to articulate it real quick, and I would like to explore the nuances of it. So it sounds like you're saying that we have held groups accountable in the past for collectively responsible bad behavior. You cited the Catholics with sweeping sex crimes. You cited men with the Me Too movement. You cited other things. And a lot of people actually objected to those arguments, believing that holding individuals responsible for collective guilt was actually an immoral thing to do. So do you believe that these were moral actions?
I think if they think that, they're not thinking of responsibility in the correct way. So when I say responsible, I don't mean like, for example, the Catholic Church. I don't mean that if a priest rapes somebody, some random ass Catholic is responsible for that. I mean that if there is a problem within the community, right? In the Catholic Church, the issue was not just the sex crimes, but being enabled, covered up, not just by the priests, but also the community, right? The churches themselves, the community of the churches themselves. Priests being moved around where they molest multiple kids. That was an issue within the community that had to be addressed. And I think they did have a responsibility to address that issue, right? To track down where that was coming from and root it out and kill it, right? So
Okay,
I don't
so
think that they're responsible, obviously, for the crimes. They're responsible for, because it is their community that they're in, and there is an issue there. They're responsible for tracking down that issue and getting it out.
So I want to test the limits of this, because I do think that this was Wick was trying to do faultingly. So testing the limits of this, there's a guy named Ali. You might have even bumped into him. I think he's called Sociologic sometimes, and he's been on the debate panels a few times. And one of his objections to the way that I am casually Islamophobic is that I kind of do apply this logic sometimes, where I say, well, based off of Pew polling, there is disproportionate support for suicide bombing civilian targets in the Muslim community. And I think this correlates with jihadist terrorism. Therefore, I do think it's the average Muslim's responsibility that if they bump into extremism within Islam, or within their mosque, or one of their friends is becoming radicalized or something like that, they do have a responsibility to rhetorically argue against jihadist terrorism. So am I being Islamophobic or not?
No, but I think that's not my issue with when that, because you do this to at least sometimes, but so does like Scott on panel sometimes. I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's like honestly, I think it's like a remnant of post 9/11 propaganda. But I'm not even so after 9/11, it was true, and I'm sure you remember this. It was true that there were issues within our Muslim community here in the U.S. where mosques where crazy shit was being preached. Right, crazy anti-American violent shit was being preached in the United States. And I think it's fine for us to say, hey, Muslims, you need to cut the shit out of your community. It's your responsibility. You're there while this is happening. So if you hear this, if you're aware of it happening, if you're aware of people having these ideas, you need to cut it out. You need to do something about it. That's totally fine. Right? I totally agree with this. Where I have an issue with Ali and like more generally, even with like Palestinians in the United States, right? When people like accuse them directly, 'cause I don't think that it's a good um, the Palestinians. I don't think it's a good like comparison for other reasons that I'll get to. But I mean, I guess it applies to Ali too. Is so I'm aware of the Pew polling on like suicide bombing, on executions for apostasy, or things like this, right? And that's absolutely an issue in the Muslim world. And I do think the Muslim world has a responsibility to do something about that to the extent they can, because it is their religion, right? Like, but this was in Christianity too, and we cut this out of Christianity somehow. So I think it's possible for it to happen there too.
Okay. So no, I accept this. And to be clear, I don't remember you ever contradicting yourself on this point. And I don't think you contradicted yourself on this point in this conversation. Matter of fact, it sounded like you were sympathetic to the notion that collective identities or communities are responsible for policing bad behavior, especially when they have the power to do so, which is kind of like, you know, a lot of liberals would take, they would object to it because they would say, oh, you're holding people accountable for the sins of the collective. That's not right to do. But then I want to test your limit, because effectively that article, we did read a healthy chunk of that article. And one of the things that they said that I think was off-putting to Wick, it's off-putting to me, is the fact that they were saying that if you do not praise the freedom fighters in their decolonial struggle in Israel and Palestine, then you are insufficiently anti-Zionist. And that seems like an insane fucking bar.
You mean the miraculous Al-Aqsa flood?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's like a second paragraph further down that says, like, if you're like, while being anti-Zionist, you should be praising the decolonial or anti-colonial and anti-imperial forces.
Yeah, but also she says that you should support the destruction of the United States, the destruction of Israel, and the expulsion of all Jews from Israel because they're like colonizers or whatever. Like, I don't agree with that. I think she's like a crazy land-back leftist person that I don't agree with. But I don't think that craziness is generated by ethnic bigotry, which is what we were talking about, is whether or not it's anti-Semitic. I think she hates the ideology. I think she sees the ideology as something that has taken over her community. I think it's like 90-something% of Jews consider themselves Zionists or support the existence of a Jewish state, or say that Israel is important to them, to what it means to their Jewish identity or something like this. So I think she sees that as like something evil that has taken over her community, and she was calling on her community to fight it and kick it out. And if she says, if you're not doing that, then you are, I think she even references like historic Jews who have fought against ethnic hierarchy before, right? And she essentially says, if you're not doing that, you've not only betrayed what rightness and goodness, you've betrayed us, our community, what we used to stand for, and now we stand for something evil. And if that's what we're going to stand for, fuck us, we don't get to exist. Like that's kind of her position. She's very extreme, but the reason I don't think this is anti-Semitic, right? She doesn't cross anti-Semitism. It's because she does provide a path out of that, right? Which is attack Zionism, attack Israel, do everything you can to throw your bodies on the floor, but ahead of the Palestinians, like this kind of shit. She's like, again, way more extreme than I am, but all this extremity is, I think, targeted at the ideology, which she hates. She doesn't hate Jews. She hates the ideology that has dominated her community.
This gets into something that I think you and I have passingly discussed via chat that I also wanted to address, because this is something that I found that was bizarre in the article. She appeals to, like, we've lost our way from the morality of Moses or whatever. She sees like Zionism as like a betrayal of Judaism, which I think is ahistorical and weird, because while Moses is famously the person who led the Jews out of Egypt and established the Ten Commandments and all that kind of stuff, but he was prohibited from traveling to the Holy Land by God, and he died before they conquered the Holy Land. But he clearly set up the conquest of Canaan, Jericho, and the subsequent battles with the Philistines.
Connor.
And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so my wife needs my help for just a couple minutes, but I'm still listening. So I'll be right back. But I'm still listening, so you can explain.
I'll just lay out the argument while you're gone. So my frustration with this attempt to say that well, Judaism has departed from its roots because it is no longer obeying Abrahamic and Mosaic law, and we have nothing to do with these like genocidal fucking freaks who are conquering Canaan or conquering modern day Palestine. It's like, well, 3,000 years ago, they actually did conquer this almost identical territory in reference to geography. It might have been a different people, but it's the same territory. And so how can you make a moral argument that this is a departure from the religion when very clearly it's like a geo-political, religious, historical repeat of what happened 3,000 years ago? And that's the argument I wanted to forward. But I'll just engage with chat while Doobie's helping his wife. And I can repeat myself if he needs me to repeat myself when he comes back. So, Targan says you should be off pudding. Should I? I got 20 minutes left. Fellrunner says, Connor, ask Doobie if he thinks Hamas was genocidal on October 7th. I kind of want to avoid the accusations of anti-Semitism specifically against Doobie and also against the author, because it's like the least interesting part of the conversation to me. So for instance, like Destiny's brought this up. Whenever somebody accuses one of his debaters of being like a Nazi, and says like, ask him if he's a Nazi, press him on being a Nazi, press him on being a Nazi. Well, he's like, that's not even interesting because we're just going to debate the label and the definition for 3 hours, when realistically I could just pull apart their descriptions and prescriptions about reality, and then it's more fun to play with the descriptions and prescriptions about reality than trying to foist a label, a negative label on your enemy. And so for me, like, I believe that chick's being anti-Semitic as fuck. I think she's probably the most self-hating Jew on the planet. But if Doobie doesn't agree with me, we're just debating a label. Whereas I think it would be more productive to debate the actual underlying ideas. Fatsimos' Jewish Fragility by Doobie. I mean, that'd be a fire book. I'd probably read that shit. So, he said you're off-putting. Rude. True. Crusader says, I mean, I don't know if you noticed my name, but in my opinion, Crusades were justified, most of them at least, so. Well, Crusader Danny, that's actually going to be really funny in upcoming historical debates. Because upcoming historical debates, we're going to be talking about the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the persistence of Byzantium, and then we're going to be talking about Muslim incursions into North Africa and the Eastern Mediterranean. And guess what? It's going to be pretty fucking hard when we go over that history to be like, oh, the Muslims, they didn't do nothing. You know, like you're not going to be able to say that shit because we're just going to look at the military and commercial expansions of the early caliphates. And it's like, like the only reason why people can pretend that the expansions of the caliphates were totally peaceful is because they've never fucking heard of it, right? They never went over the history of the expansion of the early caliphates, and therefore they were like, oh, the Muslims were just there one day. And it's like, no, Byzantium was actively conquered by proximate rivals who had converted to Islam and were conquering that territory in the name of Islam. And then the Crusades were arguably a response. So, pretty fucking funny. So, Real Serious says, Connor, did you know that we had a Muslim, liberal, libertarian aligned president? Obama? Who are you talking about? Molly says, Islam is a religion of peace, Connor. Yeah. Oh, shit. What up? It's that truck of peace. Dude, there were so many Islamophobic memes that I loved so much in the 2000. What up? Here come that boy truck of peace meme. Here's my Islamophobic meme of the day, okay? Here come that religion of peace. Oh shit, what up? It's fucking God, the tens, man. The tens were a different time. They were a different time. Like Aleppo, steal his look, Russian ambassador assassination. So there was this dude who was pretty handsome, to be honest. This is not a bad looking guy, but I think he's consulate personnel for Turkey. And so he was a bodyguard who was supposed to be guarding the Russian diplomat to Turkey. And effectively, the Russian guy was giving a speech, and he was sympathetic to the city of Aleppo that was getting the shit bombed out of it. And so the bodyguard from Turkey actually assassinated the Russian ambassador. And he was like, oh shit, here come that boy. Here come that boy of peace. And then he fucking pieced all over the Russian ambassador. It was pretty awesome. Ceasefire is already collapsing. Of course it is. Amplifax says biblical slavery was much different than chattel slavery. For sure. Crusader Danny says, oh yeah, I know this because just like you, I'm a historical autist and I'm from Portugal where the Reconquista happened and I've always been interested in it. Dude, y'all want to see something wild? Oh shit, I'm not even on screen. So this sword, I got a sword right here that my parents gave to me. And to be clear, it's a replica. It's not very sharp, but it's a sword from the Reconquista. My parents gave me that on my first birthday. They literally said, like, you know, here's a Bible, here's a sword, here's $100. And they wrote me this beautiful letter about existing on Earth in this plane of existence. And they wrote, like, you know, the sword is to defend yourself against blah, 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 blah. This is a sword from the Reconquista in Spain. And it's fucking beautiful, man. It's basically like a double-bladed... As a matter of fact, can I pull that up? I'll pull that up real quick. I'll see if it's... Reconquista Spanish sword. So it's more ornate than that. It's like this, except for the blade is bigger. So the pommel is like ivory. It's this one. It's basically this one, except for my pommel is even more ornate. So it has a very similar pommel. It has a blade that is as edged as this picture. And then the pommel itself is ivory. I don't think it's real ivory, but it's replica ivory. And then the crossguard is this crossguard. So it was pretty fucking sick. Pretty sick first birthday gift. So, anyways. Doobie, are you back? Okay. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to wrap now. Just because I desperately have to use the bathroom. I'll call Edge, you say? Yeah, I know, right? So I'll probably call Doobie at some point tomorrow or the next day in order to talk to him about it. Just because I do kind of want to like hash out the differences in our perspectives and test the limits of them. But I do want to thank the people who have donated, and I do need to desperately use the restroom. So Doobie, Old School, aka Batusai, Vazraka, Anonymous Chatter multiple times, Hedonic Samuel, thank you for the 3 donations, Anonymous Chatter, Focus Lady, Grassroots, Hedonic Samuel, Grassroots, It's Just Avi, Anonymous, Vazraka, Larry Hutchinson ×2, Fire Rat, Owlishness, Larry Hutchinson, Newmanax, Fashion 40, Jeb Cush, and Real Serious. Thank you for the financial support today, and thank you for the viewership. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you guys had a good time. I had a very good time today. It was very silly. Sorry, bro. I'm about to poop my pants. Call tomorrow. So, Doobie, I will call you. I promise you. You don't have to donate any more money at all. I just need to pick up my kid in 12 minutes, and I'm about to poop my pants. So, you know, I don't want to poop my pants. So I had an amazing time. Doobie said, my wife saw a spider, so I had to track it down until I found it. That's an important mission. Okay, I felt like a Mossad agent after World War II. It happens. Okay, so I don't want to poop my pants. I need to go pick up my child. Doobie, I do want to flesh out this idea with you because I do think it's kind of important. And then tomorrow we'll either be doing Live and Learn or we'll be doing Kalinda versus Lactoid. I haven't decided yet. But I parasocially love you guys. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage your chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I parasocially love you. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.